yourself?
I hear you.
Because I'm looking at you, okay? All right. I don't know if this is supposed to be amplifying me or is this just for the video. Okay, everything's good? Great, good morning. Good morning. Thank you. Chairman Gibbons is on the way, but in the observance of time, we have a couple of preliminary matters that we thought we would take care of while we're awaiting him. And Mr. Brett and Mr. Fine, we have a slight addition because it's really something nice to add to change the flavor of what we're doing. We're going to start with some recognition of a special award that the college has recently acquired. Jim Oliver is going to handle the MC duties, okay?
Mr. President, members of the board, we're going to start with a brief introduction by Jeremy and then a film clip.
Good morning. Jeremy Pepelo, I'm an adjunct instructor in the digital media program. I had the pleasure of representing SPC at the Regional Emmy Awards a couple weekends ago for a student-produced documentary from the digital media program called Away, A Story of Trash. And we just have a quick 30-second video we'd like to share with you.
90 seconds, yeah, 90 seconds.
I don't know, garbage?
Trash can?
I'm not sure.
You mean like after I throw it in the trash can?
Yes.
I assume a dump, just a massive landfill.
So what happens to your garbage once it gets to the landfill?
Just sits there? Probably just sits there.
It just builds up and builds up.
I'm assuming it sits there for a long time.
I'm not really sure. I always see fire. I don't know, nothing good probably happens to it.
I have no idea.
They stick it in the dirt, and they build make a mountain out of it.
Right.
And then eventually they're going to build an apartment complex on top of it.
How many pounds of garbage do you think that you create a day?
Oh, I would say 25, 30 pounds.
10 pounds.
27.
27.
10?
Probably about 3.
Too much is my answer.
I don't know, it's usually like half a bag, so whatever that is in pounds.
Do you know where your local recycling facility is?
I have no idea.
No.
I have no idea.
Oh, I have no clue. There's so much stuff in Orlando. I've never looked for it.
Can we do this again?
Goes to St. Petersburg College. This is a true partnership opportunity. We are honored along with the local PBS station WEDU. We're honored at the National Academy of Television and Arts Sciences with a regional Emmy Award given a couple of weeks ago, as Jeremy mentioned, in Hollywood, Florida. This is actually the third collaborative project we've had with the SPC Digital Media Production students in WEDU. This was entered as a regular TV documentary, not as a student production. And it will air again on WEDU's main channel on Thursday, January 10th at 8:30 p.m. Partnership like this happens with a lot of help from a lot of different fronts. And the college can thank so many folks for helping with this. I'd like to introduce many of them that are here today. Jack Conley, who's the Vice President for Content at WEDU. Larry Jopak, who's Vice President for Marketing and Community Partnerships at WEDU. Delinda Keefe, who is the lead instructor at the Digital Arts Program. You've already introduced, you already know Jeremy as the college videographer, but he's also the lead instructor for the advanced videography class where this film was produced. And last but not least, our student executive producer, Katie Bishop, who has now graduated from SPC and works in the communication department for Safety Harbor. Katie Bishop.
Okay, I can see your face now.
Thank you very much. And we'll pause for any questions. Any questions?
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
We love you. We'll have our people call your people. Thank you very much. Members of the board, today is the, since I've been here, we've used the December board meeting for calibration and planning. It really is the most important start of the annual budget cycle. So the feedback and guidance and support and frameworks that we reach today will drive the budget process that we do over the next couple of months, and we'll be back to you on a regular basis to talk about how that works. We have the collaborative labs, and it is one of the great research tools that everyone has. So Andrea is today's MC, and she has dutifully conditioned me to look at her at critical moments to keep this moving. Andrea, go ahead, take over.
Thank you, Dr. Law. Good morning, members of the board, President Law, SPC leaders. What a great day to have a strategic planning workshop. Yes?
Of course.
All right. And what an honor it is to have you here in the labs for this important meeting. Thank you for your leadership to our great college. And today we are going to celebrate key successes. We've had a valiant year since we last met here in the labs. We're also going to anticipate greatest expectations for 2013. And our process, we're going to work through several topics, and the structure is that we will ask our SPC leaders to present PowerBite presentations. And when we say PowerBite presentations, you know we only remember 10% of what we hear. So we figured we would give you the 10%. Does that work? So we sifted through the extraneous information, and we're going to deliver the golden nuggets to you.
We're down to about 10%. There's only 2 of us left.
All right, so that's the plan. But we have the right people in the room, the right board members in the room.
You tell everybody that.
Yeah, and we've elevated you even higher today. So, and so half of the time for each topic will be devoted to PowerBite presentations. The other half, we will ask you to share information if you would like to ask clarifying questions, if you'd like to make observations, and specifically we're looking for your guidance for 2013. What should we start doing that we're not currently doing? Perhaps key initiatives, new processes, new ideas. So what should we start doing? What should we stop doing? What is not adding value to our college, to our student experience that we can stop post-haste? What should we continue doing? These are the best practices that we currently have in place that we need to spread and multiply throughout our college and really leverage. So those are the key guidance points that we would look to you to help us with at each topical interlude, kind of after the PowerBite presentations. So we'd like to start with celebrating the key successes of 2012. And last night as I was leaving, I left a plate of cookies and a glass of milk. And I turned off the lights, and this morning when I flipped on the lights, all of these whiteboards were filled with greatest achievements. It was amazing. And so
It's going to be a really long morning.
it was amazing. So we love to celebrate successes. We have much to celebrate. What we'd like to do is ask several of our key SPC leaders to speak to each of the achievement walls, and then we'll pause and ask, since you guys didn't get the memo on the cookies and the milk last night and weren't able to contribute last night, we'll ask if you have any reinforcement or any additional key achievements that you'd like to reflect on. So let's start with student engagement. And Ramona, if you can share some of our key greatest achievements in 2012, please.
Oh, I would love to. Good morning, members of the board, President Law, and all. This is a wonderful thing. Student engagement, greatest achievement. The Model United Nations has been here since 2009. They this year have gone to New York. They're going to Washington, D.C., and in the spring they're going to The Hague for the first time with 6 students. They also have a wonderful middle school program called Global Initiatives, and we're hoping to expand that to the Pinellas County High Schools. Student Newspaper Sandbox, a wonderful opportunity for students students to get journalistic experience. Student Emmy Award that you just heard about, that's a wonderful achievement. Madrigalians at Carnegie Hall. This is a wonderful thing for these students to not only have on their resume, but to experience one of the greatest performance halls in the world. PTK Study Abroad Scholarship. We had a student going to Africa this year. Now he's at USF. The Meta Journal was just announced in November at the meeting. This wonderful interdisciplinary, all college-wide journal. Wonderful photographs, poetry, prose, articles. Student Managed Activities Funds. These students are now, the SGA funds are now in their hands, and it's wonderful business, financial, and group work experience that they're learning. Voter registration with the presidential election, there was a lot of good work done on all campuses, not only to understand the process, but the legalities of it as well, and to get the vote out. Veteran student projects, these are so important. There's veterans offices on all campuses, and wonderful programs happening there. And finally, study abroad blogs and improvement of the study abroad website. Go on the website and see what students are writing in country about their life-changing experiences. Thank you.
Very good. So let's give a round of applause for those achievements. Yes. And any additional reinforcement or greatest achievements in this area that any of you would like to add?
I just was interested when she mentioned the veterans and thinking about the great ranking that we got just recently,
Yes.
moving up to I think 15th.
15th, yeah.
And
That's true.
so that's a big bonus. Big bonus. Did I hear that there's internships 6 going to The Hague? Did I hear that?
The Hague is the Model United Nations. There are 6 students that will be going with 2 faculty members, and there will be students from all over the world convening in The Hague to do a Model United Nations experience, and really get that experience of being a country. They're going to be the Congo, the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great.
Excellent.
Thanks.
Very good. Let us move to faculty and staff development, some of the greatest achievements. Patty?
Thank you, Andrea. College experience training. Over the summer, as we got ready for term 1, nearly 1,800 employees, most of them in a 1-month period, went through the basic college experience training. Classification and compensation, you're very familiar with that. We implemented that this year for our career service staff, and we are approaching the implementation for our AMP staff shortly after the new year. We introduced a new plan design option for our employees where they could go to the high deductible, low premium health plan. About 10% of those did it in 2012. In 2013, it ticked up to 11%. So see some rise in that. Online benefits enrollment is now available year-round through SPC self-service, a great efficiency and convenience for our employees. Study abroad, we have a lot going on, as you can tell from the prior panel. Something that Ramona has done is bring faculty together. Not all of those faculty necessarily are on the same campuses or work together, and she is now causing that collaboration for them to discuss best practices and to talk about how to improve it both from a faculty perspective and a student perspective. We were named a top workplace by the Tampa Bay Times, and this had added value because it was based on surveys of our own employees and their perceptions of the college. The Career Service Employee Council is in its 2nd year, and something that they've done modeled after the Faculty Emeritus program is create a Career Service Emeritus program. And another high priority for that group is professional development for employees. Foundation Innovation Grant, $50,000 were recently awarded to 17 faculty and staff. Last year it was about 40,000 to about 12. So that growth is exponential. Oh, and one more thing, we created a leave donation program. This was, talk about faculty and staff development. This is our own employees doing for their colleagues. And this was initiated by employees, and they asked, what can we do to help our colleagues who are out of leave and still have a serious condition and can't come back to work? We had 56 employees donate nearly 1,400 hours, and already 2 employees have benefited from that.
All right. Let's give a round of applause. Thank you. Any additional achievements or reinforcements from our board? Faculty and staff development?
I'm real excited about the HSA, the movement towards that product. I just feel like when this first came to the board over a year ago now, I believe, that seems to be the trend for everyone going in that direction, and it's such an added bonus to the folks that are getting into it, and I just commend you on that.
Outstanding. Thank you. Who can speak to our workforce greatest
I
achievements?
I need to provide a little cover. Ann Cooper, who's done spectacular work, she has a hand in almost all of this, had an opportunity to a brief follow-up for her professional opportunity in Israel, and I authorized her to go and follow up. Did you recall she did some teaching last year, and they're planning next summers, and I'd go in her stead, but I really have to be here, so I will cover for Ann where necessary. The workforce continues to be high on my priority list, so it's comfortable for me to talk about it. We'll talk more about it. Financial aid, clock hour financial aid is now available. So as we continue to expand the certificate training, starting with the January 14th class at the Police Certification Academy, what's the limit, Mike? 600 hours or 700 hours? 600 hours. If you're in a program of 600 clock hours, we now can provide financial aid for you. And those are, of course, very high projection into the workforce. So that's a major step forward for us in our inventory of what we can do. Student internships continue to be an area where we're growing them as fast as we can. You've had the report on that. I think that's been one of the great successes this year. The trade grant, the $15 million manufacturing, I will tell you, I just came back from this time last week. I was in Orlando at the statewide meeting, and the governor opened his remarks by talking about his visit to St. Petersburg College and the briefing for the 12 College Consortium. The Collaborative Center, of course, you've been there to visit with that, and that continues to have enormous positive impact for us. Learn to Earn, Jim Connolly is here. I reviewed the search out last year. We are now well beyond, Jim, I forget the number, 3,500 or 3,700 people have taken the Learn to Earn. I forget what the final numbers were. But it's expanded in so many different areas. Within that, the International Language Institute, through Jim Connolly's, through our corporate training services. We are working on the massive online open course, the MOOC, for this. Somebody has to tell me on the deployed military. Who wrote that up there? Who's Jim? Tell me what that's all about.
That's a program that Sharon Sutherland and I have been working on. We ship laptops to deployed military. They participate in mostly IT classes, show competency at the end of the course on exams that were built by our own faculty. Once they show competency, Sharon works them into ELP credit, up to 12 credits.
Good. We have more during the course of today's presentations on workforce, but it's an area where we continue to make, I think, significant and demonstrable progress. We're getting very good positive from the community. So thank you.
All right, let's hear it for workforce. Any other additions by our board members? All right. Student support.
Okay, good morning, members of the board, President Law. Santa Claus must have been in a hurry when he got here last night, because we could have filled up all of this with student support initiatives.
Sure.
But as we look at this, under the dual enrollment, early college, early admission, collegiate high school, we've had a 93% success rate for those students. That's a C or better overall grades. We've implemented a new SAP regulations under the leadership of Mike Bennett.
That's the student academic progress, okay, on the
yes.
financial aid.
Yes. Integrated and expanded developmental advising and career services, part of the college experience. This includes the Focus 2 assessment. I think we've had nearly 4,000 students take that assessment. Also the optimal resume. We have, I think, about 800 students that have participated in that. The early alert, nearly 600 students this term have gotten an alert and gone through that process, and we're rolling that out to 8 or 10 additional courses in the spring. The learning plan, we have nearly 7,000 students that have planned at least one term in advance. Many have planned all of their academic career. Successful transition to Barnes & Noble. I know this was important for the board. Heard nothing but positive feedback from students on this transition. The implementation of business intelligence, which has been widely used by our leaders to gather data, and data that we present to the board. Out-of-classroom support under the leadership of Joe Leopold and faculty members. We have, for the first 15 weeks of the fall term, nearly 63,000 hours of out-of-classroom support logged, which is a 70% increase over last fall. Renovated student registration support areas, including writing and math labs. If you've been to any of the learning support centers, the Clearwater campus and the library, they're really trying to infuse a more inviting and engaging environment for students taking part of the learning support centers. Launched a new homepage for students to gather information a little bit easier. It's more intuitive. We're about to launch student mobile apps early spring, and we're in the process of aligning our financial aid, satisfactory academic progress with our academic progress standards. There's a little bit of difference, and then we're going to make those seamless and the same. And this year we have awarded, through the foundation, over $1 million in scholarships.
All right, excellent.
Okay.
Give our board members an opportunity if you have any additions in the student support area.
I know we're going to be talking about this a lot, but over the weekend, when I was looking through these materials and thinking about successes, the whole college experience, I know we're going to be drilling down on this later on today, but that's the thing to me that has just been, again, and I've said this a lot as a parent, it's very, very exciting to watch this unfold and gain momentum. So I look forward to hearing more about it throughout the morning. So. And I'm sorry, Bob, for dominating all the...
No. This is why we're here, it's a success, so I concur.
Very good, thank you. Improved processes. Daya, please share.
Good morning, board members, Dr. Law, and the college family. In the improved processes, we have created something for students where they can know where exactly they stand as far as their graduation is concerned. This is online available to the students, so they know how many credits they have already completed, how many credits they need to complete to get the degree. We enhanced the online admissions application so students can complete it, come back to wherever they left off and complete the application, because it's a, it's an lengthy process, but now students can save it and come back and start where they left off. The master planning for all campuses were updated last year. We have also implemented business intelligence for financials, so that all the budget supervisors and everyone in college knows where they stand as far as financial is concerned. We implemented the last year's budget process. It was totally transparent, and anybody can go and using Power Pivot tool, they can see where they stand as far as their budget is concerned, what initiatives are approved, and how much was approved. We aligned the international students' admissions records with BI, so now they can get all the information from BI. We also updated the foundation database, so they can keep track of all the gifts and everything easier. So those are some of the achievements.
Beautiful. Right. Any other recognition by our board members in this area? Improved processes.
There was one on the bottom that Francis ended. What's the last one that you ended?
Revenue goal, our annual revenue goal, last week. So our fiscal year ends March 31st, and we reached it about 3.5 months early. That's great.
Bravo.
Excellent. Very good.
The foundation board met Friday, was it, Francis? The Thursday, and the foundation assets stand at an all-time high. So very, very good work. Thank you for that.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Good. Instructional support. Leah, please.
All right, I guess you could...
Does everybody know? We're running people. We're trying to give everybody a little bit of face time. Introduce yourself, Lee.
I'm Lee Hoff. I'm with Institutional Research. And I guess you could say I'm doing instructional support because Dr. Cooper is also out of town. So
and
here we are. We're splitting. Teamwork.
No, we put you there because you're the best at it.
Oh, thanks.
Pressure's on.
Oh, goodness. All right, so for instructional support, we've worked on, in conjunction with encouraging study abroad for students. That has also led to faculty leading more study abroad programs. Actually, I just talked to one faculty that took a group to Jamaica, had a life-changing experience for the students that went to teach in impoverished schools in Jamaica. Saw the PowerPoint, looked great. Resources for internationalizing the curriculum is also related to the study abroad program, really encouraging that. You'll hear more about that later. The Public Policy Institute Conference Center has hosted lots of events. I'm sure we've heard about them on the radio and around the college. The SAC's fifth year interim report process, you'll also be hearing about that later, but we've really embedded faculty into that process much more than has been in the past. We have enhanced adjunct training through CEDL, which is the Center of Excellence for Teaching and Learning, and they are bringing cohorts of adjuncts on board and really focusing support and training around them because they're a team member just like any of our full-time faculty. And finally, we have increased out-of-class support, which I think Pat touched on over in the student support section.
All right, way to go. Any additions in the instructional support area from our board members? All right, outreach. Jeff, please.
Good morning, members of the board, Mr. President. This morning I have the opportunity to kind of highlight some of the greatest achievements related to outreach. We have this year, and actually began last year, PERT testing in the high schools in partnership with the Pinellas County School District. We have initiated a Midtown community walk with the provost where several of our SPC staff members and members of the community participated in that walk. We have expanded our dual enrollment courses both in the private schools and the public schools within Pinellas County. Dr. Renard and I had an opportunity to meet with all of the high school principals a little over a month ago to provide to them specific data on the success rate of their students as they matriculate to St. Pete College. That was a very good meeting. We've held 5 different financial aid events over the last year to help educate Pinellas County school students on the process of applying for financial aid. We've integrated a new college-wide marketing plan, which has a more integrated and data reliance focus on it. And then we also have initiated the Village Square initiative and now have a monthly newsletter, 2,500 Reading Foundation newsletter. So you can see we've been busy.
Great.
Thank you.
Any other outreach highlights from our board members in the past year? All right, very good. Much to celebrate, and as we mentioned, we could fill these whiteboards, but these are just some key highlights we wanted to identify. And we are ready for our first topic of the morning. Done some excellent work, and I'd like to ask Jamel if she would come and inform us of the SPC vision, mission, and values.
Good morning.
Good morning.
As part of our accreditation, we're required to periodically review our mission statement. We actually last did this and the board approved it in 2009, so we've been working on our review this year. There were a couple of things that we wanted to look at. We wanted to look at streamlining our mission and also look at creating something new. The college has not had a vision statement or formal college values.
There's some supplemental materials and it does include the old mission vision statement. Okay.
The Academic Affairs, Student Support, and System Support Committees each developed a proposal for the mission, vision, and values. All of these committees contain representation from all different areas: students, faculty, career, administrative, and professional. These committees alone comprised of over 75 individuals that participated, and many of them represented other groups and areas that they took their thoughts back to. What the groups did was they all looked at the core of what a mission, vision, and values should be for an organization, but most importantly, they wanted to be sure that these 3 statements drive the decisions throughout the college going forward at all levels of the organization. So all 3 committees made their own proposal to the Strategic Issues Council. They all had common themes, the same ideas, just used different wording. So they all decided, we got a smaller group together that came up with this one consolidated proposal. The mission of St. Petersburg College, to promote student success and enrich our communities through education, career development, and self-discovery. The vision, a great college transforming the lives of our students, of our communities, of our employees. And our values really speak to the students, communities, and employees. Our values, student focus. We believe students are at the heart of SPC. We want to empower them to finish what they start. Academic excellence. We promote academic excellence through interactive, innovative, and inquiry-centered teaching and learning. Outstanding service. We commit to a culture where excellent service is expected and delivered. Diversity. We foster a learning community in which the values, goals, and learning styles of all students and members of the college community are recognized and supported. Ethics. We're dedicated to the highest standards of ethics and integrity. Culture of inquiry. We encourage a data-driven environment that allows for open, honest dialogue about who we are, what we do, and how we continue to improve student success. Partnerships. We nurture relationships that allow us to grow our knowledge, expand our reach, and strengthen our impact on those we serve. Transparency. We embrace openness in communication. Leadership and empowerment. We're committed to the authority to lead and the creativity to inspire. Global citizenship. We broaden perspectives and promote the principles of civil discourse and ethical responsibility in social, cultural, and environmental matters both locally and abroad. Innovation. We actively seek and create new tools and techniques. Mutual respect. We make a commitment to treat all members of SPC and our communities with mutual respect and empathy. And professional development. We commit to providing all SPC employees ongoing opportunities for personal and professional growth. So what we did was we came up with this graphical representation that is an easy way to see our mission, our vision, and our values that we'd like to display across all the campuses. So students can see it, our employees can see it, and anyone else that comes on site, so they see what we're here for, what we strive to be, and what's most important to us. We also wanted to create a strategic link, so what we'd like to do for the budget this year is have all budget requests actually linked to one of the values. This will come back to you for formal approval at a board meeting as it's a policy, but today we wanted to present it to you and get any suggestions and feedback that you might have.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, periodically the board has the responsibility under accreditation rules and regulations to review the college's mission statement. I think vision and values are always included in that, but the college must have a mission statement that represents what it does at its core services. Over time, the one that we're currently operating under has gotten wordier and I think more complex, and it certainly talks about all the things we do. I think the exercise led by Jamel and a number of people throughout the institution to refine what we do and to make it a way that we can communicate it much more easily, and getting it all the way to a graphic communication seems to me to be an important piece of how an organization talks about its values. And then lastly, I will simply indicate one of our continuing dialogues at the highest levels is to change ourselves from a rules-driven organization to a values-driven organization. And the dialogue is very different when you're talking about did we follow through on one of our values, or did we violate one of our values, then did we break a rule, did we follow a procedure just right, those sorts of things. So for you as board members, your comfort level has to be that this represents what we're doing as a college and that this is communicable to our public from your standpoint in your fiduciary responsibility as board members. And we'll take it wherever you'd like to go. I think it's a pretty good piece of work that for your consideration today. But this is board level responsibility.
I think this is really, really good. I know when mission statements became kind of the thing to do a number of years ago, everybody had a mission statement. And to me, lots of times mission statements are fluff. You know, they say the basics without really getting into the detail. And I'm not sure what went into the last mission statement that we had, or our current one that is in the process of being revised. But this is really impressive. I think, as you said, Dr. Law, the graphic where every decision that we make, especially as it relates to budget items, has to be plugged into that somewhere. I think that's going to keep us on track and keep us on the track of, you know, one's going to take care of the other. I mean, if everything is tied into our mission, literally, then we'll stay on track. I think clearly a lot of work and a lot of input into this. I'm very impressed. Very, very nice. Very nice. It's not fluff. It's the real deal. And the point you made, Dr. Law, about refocusing on values is it's where we should be.
It is our intention to, whatever the final form, is to then reproduce this in a way and display it prominently throughout the institution. You would see this literally in every building, and certainly wherever it occurs. It would be on our website. You'd probably click through on the vision statements and those sorts of things, but we want it to be something that students recognize and hold us responsible for. And in fact, though, it directs the way students, you know, when we have to interact with a student for some sort of transgression, I hope we can talk from a values standpoint rather than a rules standpoint.
And I think the last bullet on the next steps page, where you talk about get the word out, communication campaign, that's going to be just, to my mind, key to making this the real thing. It's one thing to see the graphic on a hallway in one of the campuses, but to really understand how it is strategically linked to everything that we're doing. I think our students, our faculty, everyone has to recognize that's not just a cool logo that's plugged on the wall. It really is what we're doing. And so I think that communication campaign is going to be a huge part of this.
Very good.
I would say that I think it's outstanding, the whole graphic representation. I'm not one for mission statements as much, because I look at even our mission statement, I thought it did a wonderful job. I would think that's every community college's mission statement should roughly resemble that sentence down there, if not pretty much to a T. What I love about is the value and the whole graphics, because that's the differentiator from one college to another and displays who we are and what we're focused on and things like that. So the idea of displaying the entire graphic I think is an excellent idea, and really enthused about the values, because that's what is the heart and the soul. Mission statements, they should sound very much similar to another community college.
Jamel, were you leading the effort on this?
Yes.
Yeah. And how long have you been working on it?
We started the work in May, so earlier in the year we kind of developed the process, and then everyone started having the different meetings in May.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Very nice.
So then we will bring this forward to you for your formal approval in January, the vision, mission, values. And as we look toward 2013, obviously we've captured some of your guidance on things we need to start doing, which is every decision, every interaction with students needs to reflect our vision, mission, values. The graphic representation is a reinforcer. Any other guidance that you should give us on our mission, vision, values? Anything we need to stop doing that is not working? Anything we need to continue doing?
Could I ask, was there a value that did not make the cut or something? I mean, you obviously reduced it down to those. I mean, I'd be curious to see.
Yeah, we actually.
I'd be kind of curious if there was one or two that, you know, didn't make the cut.
No, actually, there weren't any that did not make the cut.
Kinda
Most people
fit them
just
in.
said the same things, just a little differently. So the work went into trying to just consolidate it so that we could have it down to a manageable number.
All right. So let's give a round of applause for that great work. All right, Let us move to the second part of our agenda, finance. Dr. Renard, if you can speak to enrollment management.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board, President Law. Dr. Duncan is going to follow me in a few moments, and he's going to talk about budget. But before he does, we thought we would give you kind of an overview of where we are with enrollment, looking at 5-year trends, where we are compared to last year, and where we think we're going to end for this year. So this shows you, this is all the data I'm going to present to you this morning is credit students. It does not include non-credit students. This is head count data, and you can see the 26% growth over the last 5 years, ending last year, 2011-12, at 45,000 students that we served. You can see that the year before we had 45,087, and we started our decline in the spring and summer of the 2011-12 year. So despite that decline for the year, the annual unduplicated headcount was just modestly higher than the year before. This shows percentages. Again, this is headcount data. So for several years, the last 5 years, we've enjoyed robust growth. And it wasn't until the spring of the 2011-12 year that we started to see that decline. And we ended up down about 2.5% in headcount for that term, and then in the summer we had we were down about 7% for summer. Fall of this year we ended up about 2.5% down in headcount compared to the previous fall. Now we're going to look at student semester hours. Well, we had a 26% growth, 5-year growth in headcount. We've had a 30% growth in student semester hours, which is basically the sum of all the credit hours that our students enrolled in. Although you can see that for 2011-12, it dipped down from the prior year. And this shows those percentages. Again, enjoyed lots of growth for the last 4 or 5 years, and then the decline in the spring and summer term, and then this fall we had a decline. I think we ended up right at 5.2% down for fall. Now, this is a state report. It shows student semester hours, or full-time equivalent, and it shows how we rank in terms of growth. Most of the colleges have enjoyed growth over the last 5 years, ranging from 1% all the way up to 60%. And we're right there in the middle at 30%. And we wanted you to see that. It may have some implications as funding is discussed at the state level. And then lastly, I just want to quickly show where we project to be. The blue in this stack bar chart shows the fall term. Pretty much this is finals week, so our enrollment for fall is put to bed. So we're down at the end of the term 5.2%. But we do project that we are going to end up for spring flat and for summer flat. So for the year, we're projecting a decrease of about 2.3%. Be happy to entertain any questions.
Dr. Renard, on the enrollment change graphic, spring term 2011 and 12, as you're starting to see that go down, are we all assuming this is an improving economy that's causing this enrollment drop?
That may be a factor. We're seeing lots of students that are working. They may not have been working the year before, but they are working multiple jobs. They're piecemealing just to make ends meet. And so the economy, typically, as you know, when it improves, our enrollment will decline. It's anyone's guess, really, with the economy right now. It's kind of stagnant.
What other factors, I mean, if you could speculate on a couple of other reasons for the drop, what would they be?
Well, we talked about this yesterday, location, location, location. Some of those schools that are in the 60% growth are in parts of the state where their population is growing, and we don't have that luxury. We may even be in a slight decline in Pinellas County. So I think high school students, the number of high school graduates is declining, and that's a big factor. So we're doing more and more to reach out through those partnerships to attract those students.
Mr. Barrett, I think there are three things that I'm convinced are driving the uncertainty in enrollment. One is, just as Patrick talks about, some people are in fact going back to work. Okay, so they take a little less coursework and spend some more time in employment. Secondly, though, I think there's still the other side of the coin. I think there are some people who are out of money for going back to school.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And the recession has lasted longer than they thought. They came back to us, but their choices are still getting harder, and we're then seen in an area where it's a discretionary expenditure. Thirdly, and I guess we probably ought to dig in and get you actual, we took a very, if I say aggressive stance, but we understood in the financial aid that students had to meet the standards of progress. And in more than a year ago, we started working very hard to make sure that students who were not making the academic standards of progress, we had canceled them, but quite frankly, across America, the downward pressure on Pell Grants and other financial aid, I'm convinced over the last 2 years that we have about 1,000 students who we've lost who did not maintain standards of academic progress. In some cases, you see some other colleges around the state that I think took a head in the sand approach to this issue, and they woke up owing big dollars to the feds because they were maintaining students who should not have been maintained. To our credit, I think we realized that we had put the students, look, students had to take responsibility for themselves, but we didn't do them any favors by not letting them know where they were, how their progress was, interacting with them on a regular basis, counseling with them on a regular basis. I mean, Mike and his guys for financial aid do a great job. But if a student doesn't know why they're here and how it works, it doesn't work. So I think we're a little late to the game with the whole student support pieces. I think we're in front of the curve now. I'm hoping we've seen worse. We're going to have another bunch of students who failed to meet standards of progress this semester. But that's sort of the end of the bubble of that issue that I don't think we were as aggressive to be. I think that's the biggest one, though. Michael, tell me, I bet there's 1,000 students who we have not been able to, we cannot qualify for financial aid.
Yeah, it'll be at least 1,000, but as Dr. Law said, we went from students receiving financial aid for as long as 9 semesters, and with the new regulations, it's being evaluated each semester. So it's a big change.
Is there some type of early warning device now for those students?
Well, that's one of the things, Mr. Chairman, is we've taken a more staunch approach to making progress with us. If you drop out of courses, you spring up right away for the early alert and a number of other things. And we've aligned our processes with the financial aid processes so that the students are not confused about, well, I'm making great progress. The college is saying I'm doing great, and then you find the feds are saying, no, you're not.
One of the things I hear a lot of is folks having to drop out of courses due to other issues. Have we tied the appeals process to that? So when we get we get an alert, and this person or persons have gotten themselves in trouble, that we give them the alternatives to making sure that if they have legitimate excuses or legitimate paperwork, and they can get, I mean, for lack of a better term, wipe that slate clean and start over.
Somebody will have to help me with the dialogue on the appeals process, but we put a lot of energy into the appeals process.
Not even just the appeals process, I'm saying, Bill, the President, that we go from the alert process to letting them know what their options are.
Let me Michael, go ahead. I think it's a critical issue.
Students are being notified very quickly when they're running into problems. We took an added step the past semester and had 3 rounds of phone calls as we saw students dropping. We said, look, at the end of this term, you're going to need to appeal, so you might start thinking about that now and come in now, because we know how it gets mid-year.
And so they get counseled on that process.
And we have some more information later on in the presentation. But Mr. Brett, in response to your question, I think that's the biggest driver of the enrollment decline.
And just, and I don't want to spend a whole lot of time, and I apologize for another question on this, but this graphic here that goes back 5 years doesn't really give me an indication as to how the other community colleges in the system have fared over this last year or two, where we've had this drop in spring 11, 12. What is your sense about, I mean, this is showing percentages going back to 06, and so that's, I'd be real curious as to what's the rest of the system doing over the last year and a half or two. Are they seeing these declines as well?
Most are. Some of the ones that are at that 60% on that chart are seeing still modest growth, but most are in the decline, some in the double-digit declines.
The issue is not.
Oh, no. It's clearly.
Mr. Brett, just to give you a little bit more update, I was in Tallahassee a little bit last weekend. Some of that report you can directly tie to unemployment in certain areas of the state. For example, Daytona hasn't seen an increase in jobs or companies moving into Daytona. So there are more young people in school, more people in school. The increases or the decreases on people taking more courses are related to most of the metropolitan areas have seen some growth or increase in jobs coming in. So people are starting to go back to school, go back to work a little bit and take less courses. Is my understanding.
Watch for those cycles. You're actually right. What's happening is they're already seeing a decline in the K-12 population in Daytona.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so while people went back to school and we saw them, eventually they're moving out of they're vacating the area. Okay, they're consolidating schools. They're closing schools as we speak. 2 middle schools and a high school, I think, if I'm not mistaken. It's a very uncertain time, and if we leave you with only one thing, we're watching it as hard as we can. I mentioned to everybody the team had done a spectacular job. Just last week, we were slightly ahead of where we were last year. For a variety of reasons, we had made the decision last year to purge for non-payment well in advance of the Christmas holiday and to do all that, get everything clean. We only have a few days when we get back after the holidays, and we thought it was really inappropriate to cancel and then have this onrush of people showing up that need to get back in. So we're ahead of the curve. The amount of cancellation was down 10 or 15% from last year, so we actually reduced the impact, and we did it earlier, and we hope that will allow students to align their courses. So I think we know what we're doing. It's still uncertain. That leads to a budget discussion, though, as to what do we want to plan going forward, because this is a key factor. So, Mr. Chairman, if I can, I'll just move us to that next piece, if that's all right. Do we need to get you squared away?
We got it.
Okay.
Yeah. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Law. I just want to pick up where Pat left off, basically, and sort of translate that enrollment into where are we financially and what can we expect as our starting point for planning our budget for next year. As you can see on this slide, the left is our original, that's our original budget that we started with July 1. And one of the, obviously the major factor, as Pat said, is the somewhat downward trend in tuition, which right now we're projecting to be our end of year down about 2.6 million. Again, that's using flat spring enrollment and flat summer enrollment, so that could change a little bit between now and then. For the most part, that's the major factor that's affecting where we will land at the end of the year. We are seeing some a small downturn in some of our miscellaneous revenue, which is leases and those kinds of things, but that one's not as predictable, so it could change more by the end of the year. I wanted to point out that year to date, our capital expenses are fairly low, so when I show you where we think we're going to land at the end of the year, that is an area that we have some latitude that we can work in to modify spending and so on to stay within our budget. I want to point out in our original budget, we maintained as part of this 9.8 million a budget stabilization reserve that we put in here. We've had it in there for a number of years. When we actually calculate the end of year projection, I don't count that in the numbers. So the number is showing 7.9. That revenue isn't down. We're just not counting the stabilization reserve in that. But with that said, we expect it's pretty predictable. We expect our tuition to be right around 59.5 million or so, down at about 2.5 million. We expect to receive really all of our state funding. We have no indications that we're not going to receive all of our general revenue and lottery from the state. The other student fees category is also related to tuition. Those are your lab fees, your technology fees, distance fees, and so on. So we expect those will trend down at about the same percentage as the regular tuition. Our other revenue, we expect to land at the end of the year about 7.9 million for a total revenue of about 140. On the operating expense side, we typically have lapse in personnel. We expect about 110.5 million in personnel expenditures by the end of the year, which is a little below budget. Right now, our expense is trending down. We expect to land about 26.5 million. And we're showing a complete expenditure of the capital in this, because that's very unpredictable. We could have a large expense at the end of the year, but that is an area, again, where we have some latitude. Where that lands us at the end of the year is about $1 million as a spending deficit, not a budget deficit. That does, with the stabilization reserve in there, we still have a budget surplus. But that really gives us the numbers to say, okay, how can we use that information and look at other variables, see where's our starting point for the budget planning process when we start in January. One of the things we want to look at, and this was significant when I looked at the 3-year trend, you can see that our personnel costs have risen in 3 years with instruction. I mean, I'd say there's two big pieces of that, an uptick in adjunct instruction and an uptick in health. We've invested considerable money into our health plan, so it's raised that percentage. As we plan to go forward, we need to watch that. We don't want to be, I think we'd always try to avoid anything close to 80%. So it's just a thing to keep our eye on. As far as what we can expect and where I think our starting point should be for the budget, right now the governor has not released his budget, so we don't know everything. We've tried to guess at a few things just from his conversations and so on. We know that revenues are up fairly significantly in Tallahassee. What we don't know right now is what he may project, how that may impact the community college system. We hope it's to the positive, but we'll find that out later. I think we clearly do not anticipate any recommendation from the governor to increase tuition, probably same as it was last year. So we haven't factored any tuition into this. And probably as a system, flat to negative growth. Again, all the colleges vary a little bit, but I think when we start looking at predicted or projected tuition, it will be flat to negative depending on the location of the school. So as far as what are some of our anticipated revenue and expense that we really need to consider, one is obviously health insurance. I'm going to show you a graphic in just a minute that will give you an idea of just how that is rising and what some of the potential impacts of federal health reform could be next year. We have factored in this projection flat tuition and student fees. We've actually reduced the personnel about 275,000 because we have some positions that are vacant that we know we've already planned to reduce, so we factored that in. And we went ahead and carried forward, just to be conservative, that 400,000 downward trend on the miscellaneous revenue side. So it's a fairly conservative estimate of our starting point. So tuition flat, 59.3 million. That's based on where we would project to end the year. We would just pick it up at 59.3 million. State funding, 62.7 million. We actually had some one-time, I had about 500,000 last year in that number that we'll not receive again next year. So it's been reduced, but so have the expenses. We put the stabilization reserve back in, so we kept the 9.5. So we're expecting, as a starting number, without knowing anything else from the state, about 141.5 million. We've kept other than what I told you on the 275,000, the personnel costs right now are the same. The general expense numbers are the same, and the capital is the same for about 144 million. That's really where we started this year. So we've got some work to do there, but with that said, we would be starting our planning process looking at about a $2.5 million deficit, but that's workable. I think we can work with that. This is the health insurance, our health, dental, and wellness plan. Just to give you an idea, over in the 10-11 fiscal year, the college contributed a little over $10 million to our health plan. That has risen about $1 million a year to where this fiscal year is about $12.1 million. And that is a trend. It affects that personnel percentage that I showed you. While we expect, as enrollment declines, we expect some instructional costs to decline and affect that number. But this number is something that's going to be an important consideration as we move forward. I wanted to show you two other things related to that. While the health care, the reform, the Obamacare as it's often referred to, the potential, not this year but next year, employees who work 30 or more hours a week will be eligible for participation in a group health plan. We have a little over, I believe it's 80 or so, who are otherwise temporary employees. They don't receive benefits right now, but they work 30 or more hours. Without changing anything, and depending which plan they were to go into, that could have a potential of affecting us to 1.2 to 1.4 million in additional health care costs. So it's an issue that we will have to address internally, and all the organizations are going through the same thing. So the good thing is, you'll see on the chart on the right that over the last 6 months, our surplus, or our claims reserve, has trended up, and it is back up to about 8.3 million, which is where it was back in, I guess, May or so, when we started seeing that downturn. So the money we're putting in is helping with that reserve, but we'll have to see. Hopefully it'll continue to trend that way. I don't think we need to go too far over 8.3 million. As we look forward to the governor's budget and what may come out of Tallahassee, I just wanted to give you an idea of what 1% converts to relative to our total budget on really three key factors. Every 1% of state funds is about $627,000, and we've simply ramped that up, trended that out up to 4% from there. Tuition and fees, 1% of our current budget, is about $692,000. And this is really the first time I recall actually seeing that number exceed the general revenue from the state as 1%. So that flat tuition has a bigger impact on us than it probably would have in prior years when tuition was a much lower number. I know we've talked about should we try to plan on the compensation side. I want to give you a breakdown. For budgeted employees, I broke these out because one group, the number includes benefits. And so for budgeted employees, faculty, staff, administration, professional employees, 1% converts to about $794,000. And then we have other groups of contingent employees, adjuncts, OPS employees, so on, that a percent is about an additional $190,000. So it's approaching, for all groups together, about $1 million a year for that 1%. So those are just some key things that we'll look at as we go through the process.
Board members, any questions, observations?
Dr. Duncan, I have just one question, just to clarify something. The Affordable Care Act, did you say that we have about 80 employees who would
I believe
be
it's a little
eligible?
over 80. If they kept working the same schedule they're working now, they would be eligible next year.
And that's about a 1.2 million?
It would vary depending what plan they enrolled in, but yes, 1.2 to 1.4 if we did that. As I understand that plan, although it doesn't go into effect for next year, over the next, I believe it's 12 months, calendar year?
The look back?
Yeah, the look back
It could be
period.
up to 12 months.
Okay. We can, who becomes eligible next year will depend on what we do this upcoming year. So we will have basically, we have a 12-month opportunity there to make adjustments as needed depending on our budget situation and so on.
Let me, we of course use Brown & Brown as our consultants. We had a lengthy phone conference with the executive staff and the Brown & Brown people last week to fully understand what we're facing. Let me see if I can, because the board has to engage on this one and give us some guidance. For January 113, there's no change from what we pay out of our pocket. It starts to identify who will be eligible on January 1st, 14, and what status they'll be in for insurance a year from January 1st. If you, and again, we've all read the Wall Street Journal and everything else, on January 1st, 14, we have 88 employees who either have to be brought into our health plan or we have to decide to pay the penalty and do whatever else for those things. That's option one. If they work less than 30 hours a week, though, we don't have the responsibility to cover their costs. That's the break point for part-time work, 29 hours, move forward. So for us to look at people who are OPS employees, they're currently non-benefited, we're not paying any health insurance, however they're getting health insurance, they're getting it on their own right now. If we leave their hours as they are, we incur a cost of somewhere between, we estimate, $1 million and $1.2 million just to leave them in place as they are. If we want to avoid that $1.2 million, we will, during the course of the year, have to lower their work employment from 40 hours a week to 29 hours a week because they are in a look-back period. Yeah. And I think as we look at the, nobody knows exactly what's going to happen. The Obamacare and the whole issue of adjunct instruction is firmly in midair. How do you evaluate an adjunct instructor's time? What's 29 hours or part-time? But for the hourly employees, I mean, we face the issue of $1.2 million right off the top additional cost to maintain them where they are, in addition to whatever other increases we would have in our health insurance program. And it is the ugliest choice certainly I've faced as a president, but we're not the only ones. I mean, every business in America with more than 50 employees is facing the same issue. What I'd like to do is to continue to monitor as guidance comes aboard and those kinds of things, but I just, my heart is one place, my
Right.
leadership is another place.
Right.
For us to take on $1 million worth of cost, OPS employees give us tremendous service. But at the core of OPS employment is you fit into the needs of the college to work around other fully budgeted staff needs. I don't know, I'm
Kind
impressed with
of
$1 million too.
brings up that values question again.
Yeah,
I would tell you, Dr. Law, first blush, I just think that we can't take on another $1 million. I know your heart and mind is in another place too, but at the same time, I like to try to keep the budget flat. And OPS is truly OPS. I mean, if we start offering it for OPS employees, what comes next? I mean, where do we stop? I mean, we can't do everything. We're a public organization, and we can only serve so many people. And I was looking back at the value stuff. We talk about our students a lot, And as long as they're getting served with the 29 hours, I don't see how we do anything other than that. And I wouldn't wait too long to make that decision because, you know, the look back period, you know, they start looking back longer than what, after we make the decision, then we're penalized, so.
Here's the situation I'm trying to avoid, but the situation we find ourselves in. We're literally, if you look at the $1 million a year increases going into the budget, we are working for no compensation increases, but maintenance of the healthcare program that we had. That's the down and dirty compensation issue here. Both are good. We compensate our employees fairly. We've been through a study to do that. I'm comfortable with that. But the idea that the biggest piece of our budget each year is the add-on to health insurance, and that is taking every other option off the table. Well, it's impacting every other option. I'm very nervous that that's how we find ourselves running the enterprise at some point, and I'm not sure that's where we want to be. So.
I guess though, the increases that we give our employees is probably not covering the increase in the healthcare, right?
And it's not covering their own, you know, they've got to pay for increased
Sure,
gas and everything
sure.
else. That's why I'm trying to get the
But
issue of compensation on the table anyway. I don't have a plan, but we need to take care of folks.
Well, we can discuss it, but at the same time, we have to remember we didn't create this healthcare crisis. So
Yes, sir.
we have, you know, either have a job and survive, or, you know, let's keep feeding this monster of healthcare every year, and we can't afford to do that.
What I'm really looking to see, Mr. Chairman, is what the state of Florida is going to provide us the exchanges, okay? And the governor is adjusting his position as we speak on exchanges and everything. We need to know where people are going to land as the law comes clearer, okay? It is clear to us that no later than July 1st, we have to make the choices, though.
Mhm.
The 6-month look back is probably going to be sufficient in these cases for us to come in compliance with the law on January 1st, 2014. So, and that would give employees as much lead time as we possibly can if their situation is going to change.
Okay. No, I just, if you, 6 months, a year, I mean,
Well,
to
we
the
need to-
employee, it hurt, you know, at the end of the day, they hurt, so.
And we need to figure out then how we
Exactly.
do the work and all of those kinds of things. We're not trying to ask you to solve it today. You don't have my recommendation today, but I want you to understand I believe we have as much information as we can muster. We're monitoring it carefully. We're trying to put it in the context of, I don't know if the state will do something for healthcare.
We won't know that until after the session, right?
Right. The good news that Doug shares that our reserves are stabilized is healthy, because if it was going down, we might have to take yet more action to stabilize. We don't have to. That's one-time money. If it's on the downside, you got to put it in and hope that you stop the bleeding. If it's upside, it doesn't give us an operating budget relief to
If there are, I asked Dr. Law in this process, though, if there are jobs or people that could fit full-time jobs that we have available that are OPS, we should look at their resumes early to see if they would fit those, and maybe through attrition, we can fill some of those, make sure some of that pain is not felt for some of these employees may be more qualified or doing, the job, but have never been able to kind of get their foot into a full-time job at college. And if that's possible, if they qualify for it, then maybe we can look at doing something like that for some of the employees. I know we wouldn't be able to do it for all of them, that's impossible, but.
And we know some of them perhaps are healthcare benefits on a spouse's
Spouses,
plan or
exactly.
whatnot.
I mean,
That may not be, we're
exactly,
trying to
not
give
an
you the parts that we know, and they're not very. Mr. Chairman, I thank you for listening.
No, I
sound like I'm
get
whining.
it.
I'm not.
No, you're not. I
It's a
mean,
very serious issue.
it's a reality. That's what it is. It's just
The
a
$1 million
reality.
impact was much bigger than I thought it was going to be.
Dr. Duncan, the other revenue sources, you mentioned leases.
So, rentals, those, some of it is just rentals are down a little bit. It's, in fact, I think I had on one of the slides, it's a variety of you can't read it, but interest and dividends, rentals, indirect costs recovered from grants. So it's a variety of sources. The good thing is we've, as we mentioned a little bit earlier, we do have financials business intelligence now, so we can drill way down into that if you like at our meetings and things. So, really,
Great, thanks.
So as we meet today, we're facing a current situation of about $1.1 million. It's less than 1% of the budget. We can manage expenses, and we've already started that. So that I don't view that as crisis. The July 1 budget, though, with everything we know today, is 2.9, Doug, is that the number that we just looked at? Whatever it is.
2.6.
And I'm working back from that. That's before we know anything else. We're out of balance by 2.6 on July 1, and we'll bring you a balanced budget, of course, but that's our challenge between now and then, to do all the great things and then get the budget in place. By the time we meet in January, I think we'll have a sense of what the governor might project and whether we can even hope for any new monies from the state, anything to take a big bite out of our problem, and whether or not there's tuition. We won't know that issue till May, so I wouldn't get us all worked up on that. Thank you for the guidance this morning. Okay, I think we've made our points and shared with you. Okay, so we've done the mission, vision, values, a very happy situation. We've done the finance, the other end of the coin. We're going to start filling in the middle here, the student success. You know, and then let me take the lead in here. The college isn't whether we're $1 million out on a $140 million budget or anything else. That's not, that doesn't steer what we do. The work that we do by 3,000 employees is what's the most important thing, and those will drive. Now, we still have plenty of resources to address the problems if we'll stay focused. So that's where we are. Who's doing this part? Tanja, after her stunning performance last month, we brought her back for an encore. It's not the whole show.
No, it's not.
Not be. Okay.
No, it is not the whole show. Mr. Chair, members of the board, Dr. Law, esteemed colleagues, this morning we're going to share with you some ideas about the college experience, where we are, and how we connect to achieving the dream. Last month, we came and shared with you each initiative, and we went initiative by initiative and shared what's been going on, where we are, and what we plan on doing going forward, or what we would like to do. We wanted to make sure that you knew that we did what we said we would do. We initiated the pilot plan, and it operated in the way that we anticipated that it would. One of the things that we're very proud of is being a part of the Achieving the Dream, which is a national movement that is designed to help colleges help students succeed. And what Achieving the Dream does for St. Petersburg College is that it holds us accountable and help us measure what we're doing and making sure that what we do with the college experience is actually making a difference in the lives of our students, helping us close achievement gaps, as well as helping students succeed and accelerating success and making it easy for them to progress. So what are we going to do for the spring of 2013? We're going to extend the 5 by 180 another 90 days, maybe call it 5 by 270, I don't know. But we are moving forward with that. So here's what we plan on doing for the next semester coming up. First, we're going to expand our new student orientation. Last term, only students who tested into 2 or more developmental courses were required to attend the new student orientation. For the fall, it will be students who test into 1 or more courses will have to do that. It's going to be about 1,400 students having to take the NSO this term. And then in the summer, we'll have another 800 students. But in the fall, our goal is to kind of...
I'm sorry, you misspoke. Is it for the spring or for the fall, Tanja?
No, for the spring. Students who test into 1 or more will have to attend the NSO if they test into 1 or more developmental. Our ultimate goal is to have all first-time in college students take the or attend the new student orientation. And so that will be about 5,500 students once we launch it all the way out. Actually attending our new student orientation sessions. The next thing we want to do is expand our use of the individualized learning plan. We did a very good job of getting the learning plan out. About 6,000 students touched their learning plan, but the goal was to have the developmental students, the students enrolled in the SLS courses, fully complete their learning plan for at least 5 or 6 terms out. And I think we only achieved an 18% success rate for 37% success rate for those who completed their entire learning plan. So we have some more work to do in that area, as well as get other students who may not have tested in the 2 or more complete their plan as well. Then we want to expand the early alert system, and that's the system that allows the faculty to reach out to the support staff to help students who are at risk for failing. And so this term, we did all the developmental courses. Those were the classes where faculty could submit an early alert. Our next step is to add our gateway classes. These are classes that just about every SPC student will have to take to earn a degree. And so we have, under the faculty's leadership, we have received about 10 courses that we will be expanding out to this coming spring. Our ultimate goal is for all classes, all faculty to be able to utilize the early alert process, and for the support staff to be available to help students succeed.
What would be gateway courses? Composition 1,
Right.
college algebra?
Right, your math, Comp
Anatomy,
1.
Physiology 1.
A&P 1?
Was ethics in there?
SLS.
SLS,
one.
yeah.
Okay, all right, so it's beyond just the developmental
Right.
10 courses where students
Correct.
must succeed if they're going to move
Yes.
forward.
Yes.
That is correct. And then for the spring, the other thing that we're working on is improving our quality of the developmental advising for students. And to do that, we're going to have to improve training for advisors to do more than what Dr. Oliver would call the egg timer advising, where it's just telling a student, here are the courses you take, thank you, goodbye. We're actually working on, why are you here? What is your life like? What can we do to help you? How many credit hours should you take? What career are you interested in? And so that's going to take a lot more heavy lifting for our staff to learn how to do that and to gain a comfort level of being a little bit more intentional with students and finding out what their real needs are so that we can help them along their path and make that successful. This term, only 55% of our first time in college students were engaged in a advising session that was more developmental in nature, and we want that to be 100%. And so we have some work to do in that area. And the last thing for the spring is to enhance the utilization of our out-of-classroom support. Under Joe Leopold, we are sort of retrofitting some spaces on the campuses to make it more student-friendly, as well as kind of wanting to make that the hub of the campus, so that students will want to start there and hang out there and get their learning and utilize supplemental instruction, utilize faculty who have graciously given their office hours to work in there, and to make that a normal part of the learning support for all classes. So that's what we're doing for the spring term. So what do we need to do going forward for the 13-14 year? First, we do need to develop a comprehensive plan for our staff to make sure that they get the training they need. We did a good job with the college experience and bringing that out, and now it's time to keep that ball moving and to put together a more thoughtful training that is continuous and ongoing, and also one where we can capture who attended training, how many hours have they done, who has not, what training is needed. So with the leadership of the provost as well as other staff, Patty's team, and others, we're working on a plan that will not happen just, okay, we need to do this, do it now. It's going to be rolled out to where we know each month, each week, what training will be done, who will attend that training. The other thing we need to do, you heard earlier about our advising process and our advisors. We need to change that process so that students will be more comfortable and our advising will be more intentional and meaningful to students. We're doing a pretty good job starting off, but there's a lot more that needs to be done to reach the height of true integrated advising as well as the processes. Third, we really need to refine our tools. I think you've heard about the things we've done from my graduation status, the learning plan, early alert. A lot of those tools need to be reviewed and looked at, and there may be areas that we can make further improvements and amp up the work that we're doing in those areas. We need to integrate our data. I think you heard last month where just about in every component, a challenge I stated was accessing data and utilizing the data. But we really need to make sure that we can tell if Tanja received an early alert, what happened to her with that early alert? Did she do any developmental advising? Was she also involved in any of the other initiatives? Did she go and use the career services or Focus 2? Right now, we're not able to do that. We're not able to really follow a student all the way through the college experience stream. We can tell you that Tanja got an early alert. We can tell you, okay, she did do the developmental advising. But it would be nice to have a script that shows this is Tanja Williams and these are all the things that she's done with the college experience. So we need to work on that. And then we need to enhance and improve our services that we provide in the learning support centers. I think we get a lot of good just-in-time tutoring. I think that Mr. Leopold is working on a way to make this more positive, to make this happen before the student is in trouble and not wait until they're in trouble, now go over here. It's you start here. At the beginning of every class, a student is making an A. They work their way down to C's. Sorry to say that. Okay. So that's where we're going for the 13-14 year. So what I want to say is, first, I want to thank the board for your leadership. Those of you who have been here a long time know that we've come a long way, and we have changed a lot of the things that we've done, and we're making huge cultural shifts. And it is your leadership that led us in this direction, and we want to thank you for that. I am personally grateful because in my role I get to hear from students how the college has changed, what is better, and also the staff under the leadership of the provost. With Achieving the Dream and having them on our side and being a part of that national movement, we're going to be able to show how students are succeeding and decrease the gap in learning so that all students from all groups are progressing at a very good rate. In March, April, we're coming back, and we want to bring to you the success data. These are the real numbers as to how our students fared, the students that we're working with who actually were involved in the college experience. And we want to make sure that you get to see firsthand what's going on and get a good pulse on our comfort level going forward. Any questions?
I got a couple of comments, but I don't know about questions. Number one, Dr. Law, I know Joe Leopold's not here.
The SACS convention is and they're there today.
I'm going to brag on him a little bit. Joe Leopold will go in any community, any alley, any street. I mean, I've called this guy about 7 or 8 times on different students or people that I've run into that are talking about their kids, and I swear to you, he is Johnny on the spot. And he calls them 7 or 8 times, which leads me to my next comment. And Dr. Law, you could probably better answer this because of the history of being at other colleges throughout terms. If we're starting, it seems to me that this SLS, is that it, course, seems to be very helpful to students.
Mm-hmm.
Why not make that a priority for most of our students? I know when I was going to the University of Florida, I know some people got provisional acceptances, and they had to meet minimum requirements, and they had to go to certain courses, and a lot of them, I hate to say it, were on a football team, but they had to go to special classes for half the year. But the thing was that they did finish those courses, and then they had to take that course plus college courses at the same time. And one of the requirements is that Coach Spurrier had to have them in what you now call a learning lab for 3 hours a day, or however much time the university deemed appropriate for them to learn how to get good study habits. If we're changing the culture, there are a lot of young people that come to the college that have taken all these advanced courses and do not do well beyond the first semester. If we're changing the culture, why not change it totally so that we can take an honest look at what they completed in high school and say, this kid may be in trouble after the first or second semester. Or if they get themselves in trouble, let's just say, let's readjust this. Let's go back to SLS. And then you need to learn study habits, you need to learn where the learning lab is, and here's the requirements of you spending time with the tutor on these particular courses, because we've seen that although you pass that general math or that math requirement in high school to get into college, this is much different. And I think that's where a lot of young people are getting themselves in trouble. They think that they can come to SPC and it's a high school. It is not a high school.
That's right.
Math and reading, these things are holding them, and the English courses are holding them back because they're not prepared like they think they are, and then they get themselves in over their head. So maybe, it's just a suggestion, you can give me feedback on that because I don't know, but it just seems to me that this course has been very successful in adding a mentor, is my understanding.
Right.
Taking them to all the library, showing them how to utilize the library, how to utilize their learning lab. And, you know, if we're changing the culture, let's change it totally, so everybody knows how. And I would much prefer for you to come back to the board, me personally, and say, I need more money for these learning labs, because we don't have enough tutors, that they're being utilized. I would prefer to have that than to have us trying to figure out how they failed in financial aid, trying to figure out how to get money back, or, you know, I would much prefer to see that, so.
Well, thank you for that. That's exactly the path that we're on. We're comfortable enough with our early success to go to the January implementation and expansion. So to developmental, now we'll get all developmental, okay? But we want to sit with you in March or April, because after that, the expansion becomes exponential. If we're going to do all first-time in college students, you hear us moving from 2,000 a year or 2,400 to 5,500 a year, okay? And we need to know that everything works. And Mr. Chairman, without too fine a point on it, we're triaging right now. We're taking the students we think need the most help fastest and putting them in. If you're in 2 developmental, you need all the help.
Yeah, of course.
Okay? And we're going to move 1 developmental. But notice, we're headed toward a full orientation for every student. We're headed for, I think, a full support service for every student. By the time the plans come over the horizon, it may be that some students don't need to sit in that course. We could deliver that information through a media that we're all engaged on. But we are 100% aligned behind the vision that you're talking about.
Yeah.
We're just trying to figure out how to ramp it up.
And maybe we make it a part of that orientation.
My background, I'm a really good ideas guy, and my point of growth is to learn how to execute big, endemic projects, and this is as big as it gets. Everything has to change. So we're there. We want to come to you in the budget process, and that's what we're really talking about. If we need money, we're going to ask for it.
Yeah.
But we need to know that it's going to make an
And
impact.
maybe Dr. Law, one of the things that they did, and I hate to use University of Florida because you're not going to like it.
No, I love it. The fact that they have students who need help there, some of us did that a long time ago. That's not a surprise.
Well, we spend our money on keeping our kids in school. Y'all bail them out.
Strike that from
But maybe one of the things is we do it during the summer,
Yeah.
during that orientation. Maybe the SLS is taught during the summer. And then they can move to, and there's not as many people on campus and so on and so on. So maybe that, yeah.
We're with you.
Yeah.
We're with you.
All right.
Please understand, we're giving ourselves a general grade of B on the implementation. I think we can point to good things. The numbers weren't always where they wanted, but as I mentioned, every one of the 5 projects took off. They all launched and they all functioned, and now we're trying to improve the function and the throughput and the effectiveness. I think the staff did a really good job. It's really a different thing. Mr. Chairman.
Dr. Williams, could you just elaborate a little bit on the major overhaul of the advising process?
Yes.
To my mind, that person who is the advisor that hopefully is with that student through as much of that journey as possible is such a key part of this success. What are some of your thoughts on how that's going to be overhauled?
Well, we have to actually change our entire mindset of our role when a student comes in. It's just like a new customer. And what we were used to doing is saying, here's a catalog, here are the courses you need to take, Go ahead and register, have a great day. Now we're saying, okay, we've got to find out, why are you here? What course do you don't know? Okay, now you need to go over and take a interest inventory that helps you figure out what career you want. Okay, now we have your career. Let's plan out your classes for the next 5 or 6 terms to make sure that you're in the right course going forward. Do you need extra math as an area? Okay, let me show you where the Learning Center is and tell you what coursework you know, what tutoring is available for you and what we can do to help. It is more it's prescriptive. I mean, it's just for me. It's not a one-side. It is. It's very personal. It's something in the past we used to be challenged to try to help a student in 2 or 3, 5 minutes. Now it's, let's make sure we get them right the first time. Let's take the time we need to make sure that they start strong, so that the faculty can take them from, you know, the class and say, okay, they've gotten all the background information, now it's my turn. And so that's totally different. And we have people who have been here a long time, like myself and others, who will have to make that change. They'll have to turn and make the change in order for us to do that. And this, unfortunately, isn't something new. We're a little late to the game on this. And so we've got some work to do there. I think some of the processes, looking at once the student has taken orientation, they go here, then they do this, then they do that. That needs to be looked at again as well. And then we need to provide qualified staff who can work with those students. So that's what we mean by overhauling.
We, the early alert, Mr. Brett, is a good example, and Phil would be happy to share this, but when we got the system working, we then delivered a student's name with an advisor, and the advisor at times didn't know exactly how to engage that student. How do I get the ball rolling with this student? What do I say? How do we bring, I don't know enough about this student. So there's more of a case management flavor to it.
Exactly.
Am I describing that correctly?
Yeah, absolutely. There's really trying to understand from the classroom and the instructor, what are the real needs of that student? And part of it is advisors trying to become coaches for that student. We call them coaches, but they're really somewhat case managers. How do you ask the difficult questions to the students? That's the change in advising that we're going through. We have to be able to dig deeper into the student, assess their risk factors for success, and then help them determine what they can do to minimize those risk factors. That's where we're headed with that.
Some of that goes to the point you were making, Mr. Gibbons, early on. And then if it shows up as a financial aid problem, but it's not really a financial aid problem, right?
You know, Dr. Law, one of the things that you may want to look at is FAMU Law School and Stetson have gone away from, you know, let's just let people fail on their own. Now they have exactly what Dr. Nicotera was talking about. They have coaches that work with these students, and that may be something that we want to look at to say, how are you engaging with the student? How do you get to that tough question? They may have some answers for us on that because they've been doing it now for longer than what I thought. For over 5 years is what one of their professors were telling me at Stetson. Wow. They've been doing that. And it's because these law schools are judged on how many people make it through, not fail. So they have to keep those folks that they've accepted in good standing. So that may be something that we want to look at just to get some material from them to see what they're doing.
I wrote that down.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Williams, I am so thrilled about this whole effort, and my congratulations to you and your team. I know a lot of people have worked hard on this. You know, it's funny, everybody in this room, except for me, is an expert in education. I know Devron's an expert in everything. We have a headmaster down there, and then everybody else here, except for me. And it's a funny thing about trustees, you know, they get appointed to these community college boards like this. And speaking for myself, I don't bring any area of expertise regarding education other than a parent. And I've said this before.
Then you're an expert.
And to me, and as you said, Dr. Williams, you know, we hadn't done this in a long time. And I've now been on the board for almost 5 years. And we weren't doing it before. And we're doing it now. And it's, to me, it's just one of the most exciting things that I consider when I look at where we're headed. And I know we've got to roll it out slowly. I can be impatient in a lot of ways. I'd love to see it all just go in full speed tomorrow, and I know it can't. We got to do it the right way. But I just am very excited about this. And again, because I've been on the other side of the fence, and I can see that how much value this is going to bring to the students. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Still under the student initiatives and successes, Dr. Jeff Sesta will speak about high school partnerships.
In the packets that I gave you, there is a brochure that we put together. I think we sent it in the, yeah, there's a handout. We may have put it in the Friday packet. Did we put it in the Friday packet? But it documented everything we're doing with the school district, and it's a pretty impressive list. I think Jeff has been the leader on that.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Board, Mr. President. I have the opportunity today to speak to you about the partnership programs that we share with the Pinellas County School System. And essentially, there are 4 of those accelerated options that we share. The first one is our traditional dual enrollment option, which is available to public school, private school, and homeschool students. We have our early college program that is for high school juniors and seniors that allow students to graduate from their assigned high school and earning an AA degree at St. Pete College simultaneously. We also have the early admissions program, which is another full-time option. That's for high school seniors that allows them to earn high school and college credit towards an AA and or an AS degree. And of course, we have our collegiate high school program, which is our charter high school, which also allows students to earn credits, to fulfill high school credits, and earn an AA degree as well. The nice thing about all of the accelerated programs is that we have these programs all the way from the north end of the county all the way to the south end of the county, and they serve a very diversified population of students. This particular slide provides you with a snapshot of what our enrollments looked like last year. For the 2011-12 academic year, we had over 2,500 students participating in all of the accelerated programs, and you can see our numbers reflected there, about 1,800 or so dual enrollment. We had 375 early college students, 145 early admissions, and 215 collegiate high school students, which represents the 2,500 students. This slide, what it does in terms of providing a visual for student semester hours. So not only do we have an increase in the number of students that are participating in the accelerated programs, they're also taking more classes. Therefore, you see an increase in student semester hours. The top line being our dual enrollment program, the middle line being what we refer to as off-site dual enrollment. Those are the courses that we have out in the public and private high schools. And then we have our early admissions program. So again, you can see the increase in the number of student semester hours for each of those respective programs. The reason that you don't see an increase in the early college program is because our numbers are stagnant and consistent at 375. That's the current contract with the district. This slide shows you a little bit, or gives you a little bit of an indication in the growth of the number of high schools that we have participating. Last year we had 20 different schools that had courses in them. This year we've got 25 schools that have classes on their campuses. And on the right side of the screen, you'll notice these are the actual numbers of classes or section numbers that are offered out in the high schools. You can see a significant jump in the public schools. One of the reasons for that is because we have partnered with the school district. As we learned earlier, we're offering PERT testing in the high schools. And the PERT test identifies college readiness and eligibility for dual enrollment. So that's one of the reasons we've seen a significant increase in the particular sections. Our budget, how we offset rather the off-site instructional expenses, The left-hand side of the screen gives you an indication of what our costs were last year. We paid out just over $100,000 to our private school instructors, about $63,000 to our instructors in the private schools, and then our payment to the school district was approximately $120,000. And on the right-hand side, what we've done is provide you with up-to-date information through this current fall. We anticipate that the cost for instructors for the private schools will reduce because we actually had a reduction in the number of classes in the private schools. The public school payment will remain relatively constant, give or take a few thousand. But where we're going to see a fairly significant increase, as much as a doubling, we may end up paying the school district as much as over $200,000 for the classes that we offer on the particular public school sites. So as we move forward, I could stand here all day and talk about the benefits of the accelerated options. We've already learned earlier that we're very excited that our students experience a 93% success rate. It's an A, B, or C. We're very proud of that. A recent study that Dr. Coraggio's team did on last year's graduating cohort, approximately 20% of those graduates had earned some form of accelerated credit. So we're very pleased about that particular number, as well as, of course, it saves students and parents and the state a tremendous amount of money. As far as the program goals and needs, we're going to continue to identify those needs. They're reflected in the enrollments. You can see that those enrollments are increasing. But the challenges or the programs do not come without their challenges, especially related to the funding at the state level. So right now there are dialogues taking place at the state level to try to identify or determine potential solutions in an effort to balance out the funding so it's a little more equitable between the school districts and the college. But overall, our programs are flourishing. The kids are doing very well. We look to continue to grow those programs. I know that our K-12 and Community Outreach Initiative is one of the college's strategic initiatives, and we genuinely support all of those initiatives, and we thank you for your support. Thank you.
Any questions?
I have a question. This is great. The accelerated programs are helping some of the top tier kids. We talked about some of our enrollment decline, maybe as a result of graduation, high school graduation rates going down, and I know we had a success with Gibbs High School, partnering with them. Right. Do we have anything going forward relating to the high schools on how we're going to be partnering with Pinellas County Schools to try to help the ones that might not be in these top tiers?
Well, as a matter of fact, we do. We've recently secured a Gateway to College grant that focuses on students that are at the lower end of the tier. These are students that are in jeopardy of not graduating from high school or have already dropped out from high school. And that particular program will be located at the downtown campus. We just found out that we secured that grant. As a matter of fact, under the leadership of Dr. Catherine Kennedy, there are a team of us that are working on that right now. So probably in the initial stages, we're going to start with 2 cohorts of 20 students. The primary focus will be on South County, and then eventually we could have as many as 200 students in that pipeline. And what we're looking to do is to allow those students to fulfill their high school graduation requirements, earn some dual enrollment credit, and then segue directly into one of our St. Pete College programs. So that's a big initiative that we've got on the table right now.
Great.
So that's just one example of the partnerships. And then, of course, as Dr. Law mentioned, I could stand here for another 20 minutes, which he won't allow me to do, and talk about all the other partnerships that we have with the Pinellas County School District.
Great, thanks.
Sure. Thank you.
When we talk about state issues, this is a big state issue. Everybody loves it. Nobody's paying for it. In the old days, remember, tuition was 25% of the cost of education. It's now 50%, and the state hadn't paid its 50% either. So all of these good things, all of growth in the last few years has essentially come out of our hide. I'm not ready to abandon it. Had a great conversation with Mike Grego. There's some very quiet discussion going on at the highest levels about some relief so that we can maintain these programs. Some of the colleges across the state have in fact limited and have severely restricted on these things. It's fundamental to our success. We'll continue to grow with it, but the new superintendent is a strong supporter of that too. I'm going to cover the workforce. Who's got the clicker? Which one are we doing here? We go forward. There's just a couple of key things looking forward for the board. Again, nothing that you haven't heard before, but the expanded focus on certificate program. You know, I was reading a thing about Apple computers and Tim Cook's leadership and all of that, and he said, you know, the thing that most defines us is really how few things we do, not the ooh-ah kind of stuff. And I guess what I'm trying to do is say we have some product lines. We have a baccalaureate features. We have associate degree features. And now the product line that we're working on is the certificate features. And if we can get those three in relative, if we can raise them all to the highest level, I think we will have made the biggest impact. I need to take a second though. Sharon Sutherland, stand up. Okay, Sharon is our Dean for Computer Information Technologies, and she has done spectacular work, and no matter what we do, the sun does not shine on her. When we had the governor's visit here, Sharon was on the podium, but we somehow, Brad Jenkins ended up stealing her thunder that day, and I know you faculty was there and doing some other things. Sharon is doing a tremendous job for us in not only growing the credit programs, but really growing the certificate programs as well. It is not easy work, and we appreciate her work there, okay? Ann Cooper and I will be bringing you a plan for how we can embed those workforce certificates, I think, more deeply within each of our credit divisions. And again, Jim Conley has done a really good job with his corporate training and some other kinds of things, but we need to get these things meshed together, and that's where the rubber meets the road. Everybody's busy. We fight some societal views that this isn't as valuable as some other things we do, and I think I can make a case that for the people who need it, it's more valuable, and we ought to be candid about that, okay? And then despite a really good meeting with the superintendent, he and I did not have a chance to review our relationship regarding P-TECH and that, but I suspect that will work. I know we've mentioned to you 3 or 4 times, but the provision of financial aid here is fundamental to the success of many of our students. It was one of the few things that our friends in Midtown asked me to take on because you know, they're parents too, Terry, in many cases. You know many of our friends down there. And they're just as frustrated as can be that they see their kids signing up for proprietary schools that are charging $24,000 and $26,000 and $28,000 for really entry-level certificates. And that's really something the college ought to be doing at a much, much, much lower cost and a certainly higher quality level. So we're working on that. So that's what the Focus 1 will be. Focus 2, we've opened the door for discussions regarding additional baccalaureate education. It's been a huge success at the college. It's still a driver in Florida's public policy. We've got a good list of issues that we've been looking at for the next logical parts. In fact, if memory serves, we're already approved at math and computer science, I believe, if that's not the case. My friends from, who's going to take the phone calls from the Mirror people when they see that they got dropped from the list, okay? It ain't me. There's the mic, okay? It's not me, okay? The music industry people need to be on that list. And several others. 2 things. One, everybody's hopes and dreams are there. We have a lot of work to do on confirming industry needs and all of that piece. I haven't seen that data yet, okay? One of the big changes is we will not be adding these as kludged-on add-on programs. We're going to try to grow them generically from within? What are our resources to expand into these areas? What new resources might be, resources being additional faculty? But we have an enormous number of faculty who are capable of teaching across all of the levels, and we need to see what that would look like. So we're taking a much different approach toward analyzing these programs. And then, quite frankly, sad to say, I really think we're at or near the point where to add something, we have to drop something. You know, I just don't think we're going to be in a situation where we can just add new things. You saw the budget. I'm not seeing that. So we are making some of the assessments. Last month we took the first step on a program with very low throughput. So there's some resources that will pop up, and we might be able to redirect those. So that's area 2. And area 3 is greatly improved placement tracking and information. I talked to some folks last night. The governor met with some presidents. I was not able to be there yesterday. The whole issue of his budget recommendation will have some money to support the general program fund. It will have a very identifiable part that has to do with the performance of graduates. Okay, more graduates, time to degree, and earnings of the graduates will be the key metrics that he's moving forward on. The whole issue, and Rich gets some minutes here, and we won't steal his thunder, but the whole issue of continuing contract faculty evaluation has an increased placement tracking and performance piece to it. All of us are in a much higher level of community accountability. You get it informally as well as formally, but I think we ought to be very proactive in that. There's no chance we can keep doing what we're doing and just saying, trust us on this stuff, okay? And then the student marketing and retention, changing people's view of how to go to college and why you would go to get a post-secondary experience. I mean, I'm talking again about the marketing, about the certificate pieces and all of that, so it works. The governor is expecting us to work much more closely with the workforce systems. We're friends, we're partners, we share information, but we're not taking action on the information we share across both of those. So I think there's some work there. I think we demonstrated for you that the Florida Department of Labor already is feeding stuff back. You can go to a website that's called smartcollegechoices.com and see what our graduates have been reported to. It's a 2 or 3 year lag on graduates, but how many, what the placement rate has been, and what their earnings are, and the numbers look pretty darn good, I will tell you. So those are the 3 major areas that you will see us continue to develop. We're happy to, if there's more, help us out and help us get focused. But I think we've got a vision and some forward motion in each of those 3 major areas.
Any clarifying questions or guidance as we look toward 2013 in the workforce area?
No.
All right, Dr. Mike Bennett, financial aid.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We currently have 64% of SPC students receiving financial aid this fall, and during the past 3 years, we've had a 30% increase in applicants, awards, and dollars. All that is managed by 52 financial aid staff, and over the last several years, I'd like to thank the board. My staff have gone, 40 of them have gone to professional development activities over the last several years. And the Florida Association of Student Financial Aid Administrators, president, vice president, conference chair, training chair, and clock hour chair are all employed at St. Pete College for next year. So we have a big presence out in the state. Our average age is 28 years old. 69% of our students are independent. We've talked earlier about the successful implementation of satisfactory academic progress, both with financial aid and aligning it with the college policy. And in terms of key issues, we know in this country there's a student loan crisis. And under that category, we need to be able to control excessive borrowing and start to spend time with our students, teaching them financial literacy. And the problem with excessive borrowing is that we as an institution or a financial aid office do not have the ability to limit borrowing of our students. And I think nationally, you'll see that discussion start to occur where that might happen to control borrowing of students who are high risk and shouldn't be borrowing lots of money. The loan default rate and the cohort default rate I'll talk about in a second. Here's a 4-year look at our financial aid applicants and the number that's awarded. So on the far right under FY13, you see as of today we have almost 36,000 applicants and we have almost 24,000 students awarded. I would picture by the end of the year it would match the other graphs in an upward trend.
Just so we're clear, the first 3 graphs are year-long. The 4th graph is July 1 to today.
To August 30th.
August 30th.
So we have a long way to go.
Yeah.
In terms of dollars, we administer $171 million here at the college, and this graph shows the breakup of that money by grant, scholarship, and athletic, work, study, and loan. So grants is 34%, scholarship and athletic is 5%, work study is 1%, and loans are 60% of the dollars of financial aid. SPC cohort default rate, and this is a very important slide. You have on that graph, you have the 2-year cohort default rate, which is what the government would provide over the last several years, and they've just implemented a 3-year cohort default rate. What that is the 3-year cohort default rate of SPC College is 20.6. So they go in, and in fiscal year 2009, they look at the number of students that are going into repayment. In our case, that was 3,006. And of that 3,006, 620 students went into default. Okay? You see the national 3-year rate of 13.4%. In the state of Florida, the 3-year cohort default rate is 16.2%, and the national cohort default rate for community colleges is 18.3%. With that 3-year cohort rate, it won't surprise anyone, of those 620 students that are in default, 94% withdrew or didn't graduate. We've done some analysis of this cohort. 302 are in AA programs, and we also learned in that group that there were many students that consolidated their loans after they went into default. So that information will be helpful on where we would target our initiatives. The other thing that I'm doing to learn some best practices is I formed that we'll meet at the end of January. I'm calling a Tampa Bay Loan Consortium of the 10 colleges in the Tampa Bay area, so we can all get in a room together and start to brainstorm and look for best practices and ways we can help each other. If you were to ask, what do we do about this situation? How do we change it? The answer is simple but yet complicated at the same time. It's really looking at that 620 students and trying to help them one student at a time and looking for ways for either a phone call or a counseling session that we make a strong connection to make a real difference in their lives. Because think about it, if any of us were going out to get a mortgage or refinance our home, we would really struggle getting through that process on our own. And loans between the different interest rates, the different lenders, the different repayment options have become very complicated. One of the things we're doing to have a meaningful phone call is we've partnered with American Student Assistance, who is a loan servicer that has the highest remediation rate of students who are in default. And we're looking for them to provide the support, the phone support that our students need. We've turned this program on. It provides online software, and you'll see throughout the campus, Get on the Money. You'll see staff with T-shirts on the money. We're promoting this in a big way, and we've just started this for the last 3 months. We've already had 3,500 students activate their accounts to help them with their loans, and we just sent out a mailing of 15,000 students. In terms of financial literacy, that particular program has 9 modules, and that's being used by 50 SLS sections. We would like very much if there was mandatory SLS for all students, because it would give us a vehicle to get in the classroom and spend some more time with students. Because as we're finding, students don't do optional. They'll do what's mandatory, and you have a captive audience, and you have the right environment to spend time with them. In terms of financial aid issues on the horizon, obviously the future of student loans. Currently, we have total outstanding loans will exceed $1 trillion. 11% are delinquent. I read something earlier today that said 1 in 6 is almost in default. Last year, we had almost 15,000 students borrow $102 million. The current interest rate right now for subsidized Stafford loan is 3.4%. And that's scheduled to jump July 1 to 6.8%. And that's money driven, because if the government kept it at 3.4, they'd have to come up with an extra $6 billion. So we know that's not going to happen. But what that will mean for our students is if they had $24,000 of loan indebtedness, that jump in the interest rate would add about $4,000 on their total repayment. And then new for July 1, the government is starting to look at a maximum time frame for subsidized loans. And this, I think, is a cost control where they're saying a student could only receive 150% of the maximum time frame for a subsidized loan. So if they were in a 2-year associate degree, they would be eligible for 3 years of subsidized Stafford loan eligibility. So if they got that somewhere else and they transferred to us, that would mean they couldn't receive a subsidized loan. They could receive unsubsidized loan. Another issue on the horizon, not so much for next year, but the year after that, FY 2014, is the Pell Grant is facing an $8 billion shortfall. We currently have 70% of our financial aid students receiving Pell. So anything that's touching that program, we want to continue to monitor and see how it works out. For next year, the Pell Grant is scheduled to go up $85, but it's the year after that where there'll be issues.
We've added this as a strategic issue because the order of magnitude is so great. The idea that our students are borrowing $100 million a year is beyond belief to me, okay? And that the whole financial aid program is beyond $170 million a year at St. Pete College is stunning. Lots of challenges here, lots of challenges with individual students, with our institutional response. Mr. Brett, when you're asking about the counseling, that has to be fundamental to the counseling experience, not and oh, I don't do financial aid, you'll have to go see somebody else. We've got to train everybody to. 70% of the students are getting aid. It's not an add-on. It's part of who our students are. So Michael's done a great job with his staff. When I first read his thing, I thought he's given us the demographic. He has 52 staff and they're 28 years old. I misunderstood slide 1, okay? Just the average age with Michael should drive that up much higher. Big issue. Guidance, questions?
The default rate, 3-year for St. Pete College is 20, national is 13. I think you said the state was 18?
The state was 16.2.
So we're on the high end?
Yeah, we're on the high end. And we have slides put together. We're about in the middle. If I had all the colleges in the state of Florida, we would be about 10th. In terms of cohort default rate. And where that becomes important, and this is why the government produces it, it's like your report card. If you're over 30 for 3 consecutive years, you jeopardize all your federal financial aid, which for us is $152 million.
This SALT program that we've joined forces on is pretty cohesive. I mean, it's very proactive to have students be sure they know what they're borrowing, how they're going to do it, what's the downstream impact of this. Still, students are still borrowing too much money.
I have a follow-up to Mr. Brett's question. On the 20%, you talked about distinguishing data, how you got for the 620 people that are already applied. Is there any other data that you looked at to maybe, so that the next time we can head it off at the pass? Like, are they more a minority, or are they taking more remediation courses than other folks, so on and so on?
What we did is, and they're all good suggestions, we had an initial look at the data and had maybe 10 slides of other things, and now we're in dialogue of what to add to that analysis. So they would be 2 areas we could add.
I mean, I just want to know if they
Mr. Chairman,
have that.
Can we, in the interest of time, we put a lot of downward pressure on how much information we brought to you today.
Sure,
With
no.
your guidance, though, we'd be happy to make this one of the student success presentations in January, February, March, maybe, okay?
That's fine with me. Okay.
We've got a lot of information on who borrows and what that looks like and what the challenges are.
Perfect.
We know that, so.
Thank you.
Okay, very good, thank you.
We've been through things. We added a little feature that we call a lightning round. I don't know why we thought we could do this lightning round.
We can do it.
We're at 10:48, and I want to be sure we have time for dialogue. I'd like to make a suggestion, though. Let's do this. I've already started alluding to some of the state level issues. I'd like to suggest that we limit this to simply the accreditation and the faculty issues. Ramona, you've had a chance to be with the board previously. We'll come back on yours. We did even a little bit in the other part. So we'll limit it to 2. Rich, I think, needs to share some information.
Let's just shorten it up, Dr. Law. Let everybody have the opportunity if they can go
I've
fast.
seen these people. Yes,
I mean,
yes, Mr. Chairman, okay.
No, I mean, no.
Yeah,
No, I mean,
I've seen these people,
if they
okay.
commit, I mean, if they commit, because I
Okay.
was late, and I'm sorry about that, but if we could commit to just keeping it very brief, to the point, and we'll keep our questions short, right, board members, I guess?
No, I'm trying to get more time for board members to talk. Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay.
All right, well, thank you. We will keep it brief. Again, I'm Lee Hoff, I'm with Institutional Research.
And I'm Cynthia Gray, the faculty chair for the SACS Working Group. Thank you for your attention today, and today we'll be providing you a brief update on the following 2 SACS areas. We'll be discussing our 5th-year compliant report, which is an interim assessment before our next full compliance review in 2018. We'll also be giving you a brief insight into the Quality Enhancement Plan Impact Report, which highlights the success of our critical thinking initiative over the last 5 years.
As a reminder, the goal of our Quality Enhancement Plan was to infuse critical thinking throughout the institution. And the impact report that we will be submitting this year provides a venue to highlight the initiatives that were part of this. The 3 branches there focus on, first, student success items. And some of the highlights from that over the last 5 years have been the Constitution Day, the annual SPC Leadership Conference, both of which were events led by students focusing on out-of-classroom support to the Critical Thinking Initiative. Next, we have professional development items like the yearly Critical Thinking Institutes, which bring in national leaders and help develop our faculty's role in critical thinking initiatives. And we also have grants that have been sponsored by the Center of Excellence for Teaching and Learning, which help provide slight monetary stipends to help embed additional critical thinking tasks and items into courses as well as programs. Finally, the 3rd part of the focus has been on the critical thinking resource initiatives, and the biggest piece of that was the Critical Thinking Gateway website, which contains information by SPC faculty for SPC faculty, developed all as part of this process.
An important part of the success of the QEP as well as the 5th-year interim report was a focus on an open process that involves a team approach. These are the members of our committee who have been diligently working on the process of both writing the 5th-year interim report and the QEP report. As you can indicated that it's a diverse cross-population of representatives of SPC representing administration, leadership, and faculty members, and many of those on this committee are representative here today. Because of all their efforts, we are on schedule to submit our document for our September 13th deadline, and we look forward to a successful reaccreditation. The link to our open access continues with the open access process, continues with the way in which both documents are shared with the college community and with our external consultants who are currently in the reviewing our documents and will be providing us as a group and the college feedback in February.
And due to time, we won't be navigating to this today, but feel free to do that.
All of it's clickable
Yep.
and documentable online.
And if you have the opportunity to go and view it, you'll see the depth of the report and how much it took to present this to SACS. We have 19 accreditation items we had to address, and it's filled with dialogue and links that will actively take the reviewers to support what we do.
And finally, in summary, we are on schedule to meet our submission deadlines for both documents, which this graphic will outline what we've been up to and what we are in the progress of. But most importantly, there is a plan in place to keep the critical thinking initiatives that have occurred over the past 5 years alive through the work of the Center of Excellence for Teaching and Learning, as well as through embedded curriculum changes and the faculty's continued focus on teaching for critical thinking.
These people are very quick studies. This presentation yesterday was somewhat different.
You scared me, sir.
Good job. Any questions, guys?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
She wasn't sure.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mr. President. It's my pleasure to be here again. I'm going to give you a blitz round meant to build upon the November presentation that I did for the board on overall internationalization, enhancing our study abroad program, and increasing numbers of and enhancing our services to international students. There's only two things I want to point out in terms of overall internationalization. One, along with, again, the gathering of data, which is really, really important for us, and we have much work to do on that, is to establish an International Programs Advisory Council, or what we're calling IPAC. They did have one a few years ago, as I understand it here, but I'm looking at it more comprehensively, everything from a board representative, senior administration, deans, faculty, retention and enrollment services, student services, and students. So we really have a full view of getting our house in order in terms of international programming, and they will really help to advise and counsel the programming. The other thing is to establish a local global agencies and organization resource guide for service learning, practicums, internships, career services. Not only the over 500 Tampa Bay regional international organizations and businesses, but also local immigrant communities such as Immokalee workers or the Hidalgo community in Clearwater, where our students can become engaged globally. The second piece, study abroad, as you heard in November, we're wanting to increase our participation, and I'm wanting to point out one thing. It's very important for students to have money to go abroad, and that is increasingly the number one reason why students don't go abroad. It is the funding. And I'm happy to report that we're already working with the Honors College, who does have scholarships, but more importantly, the foundation and Francis New's leadership is very, very active in gathering funds for study abroad participation, and she will begin in spring 2013 an appeal to the community. And this will be an important uptick for our study abroad participation. Within 5 years, what is our goal? 50% of our entire student population either studying abroad or having a local global experience. This is very ambitious. 33,000 students, that's about 17,000 students or so we're wanting to send abroad or to have a local global experience, but I think it is doable. International students. I think one of the most important things in terms of increasing numbers is to realize the economic impact. I went to look, first of all, in 2011-2012, the contribution to the U.S. economy in international students and families was over $21 billion. For the state of Florida, the economic impact of internationals and their families was over $935 million. A quick view of SPC for the fall 2012, F1 visa students, 234. We took in tuition only, $1.5 million. This is a revenue stream that we can increase with some fairly simple techniques, and this is part of the action plan. You'll see some of the dates and the targets we have here, and one is really developing a strategic plan with the recruitment team, as simple as enhancing and updating our website, including strategic armchair recruitment, and that way we can get students in, and ongoing development with our Student Affairs Office in terms of making sure we're providing them the infrastructure and services they need to succeed in their goals.
Ramon, go back one slide because
Yes.
there's one key matrix.
Sure.
The last goal,
Yes.
talk about that one.
Thank
if you
you.
would.
Yes,
Okay.
the long-term goal for our program, now, best practices, just in terms of the international student programs, 5 to 7% is a really ideal percentage of your student body to be internationals in terms of enhancing and diversity and just having that mix. I would propose the long-term goal be 3%. If we kept it at 33,000 students, that would be 990 students for SPC. Currently, we have 234. Miami-Dade has 1,649, Valencia College has 511, and Broward College has 507. Thank you very much.
Take a breath.
Thank you.
Questions or guidance regarding international programs?
Thank you very much.
All
I
right.
would like to make one comment. I think the international enrollment, obviously the boarding school guy over here, is a huge advantage. And I see that we spend a lot of time, we're very proactive with what we're doing with our students, which is great. I think we're proactive with managing the budget with great. But the dialogue until right now, I didn't hear what we are going to do to increase enrollment or marketing or things to actually increase revenue. This is my little pet peeve, fund development and things of that. I'd love to see us spend a little bit more time on the business side of the school instead of managing what we're going to get from the state. Or, I think we're extremely proactive with the students, and that's our main goal. But I think this, I was happy. I sat here quietly. I was happy to, towards the end, see finally something that has to do with being proactive as far as raising funds and international student population. If I'm not mistaken, if you actually compare universities, they're up to 15 to 20% of every university has, is international. So I think it's a modest goal of 3%.
Yes, it
to
is.
do.
Yeah, you're
But
right.
it can do wonders for our revenue.
Yes, I
Because
agree.
they're full-paying students.
Mr. Fine, my comfort level in supporting those students when they get here is different today than it's been at times past, because you really do take on a different commitment with those
Right.
students. And now I think we're ready to
Ready to
blossom
expand.
forward. So I think we are on the same page here.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Lightning round 3, faculty issues. Dr. Rich Mercandante. Sure.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, and members of the board, Dr. Law. I'm Rich Mercandante, Faculty Senate President.
Clicker, there he is, okay.
Have to get through there. There we go. I want to share just quickly 2 main faculty issues, both of which come down from us from the state level. The first issue basically is the Gen Ed 3630 reduction. Basically, as you know, last legislative session, spring 2012, basically a bill was passed that reduces from 36 to 30 credits in the general education category. So basically what the setup is the state has a committee. They decide the first 15 credits, and then each individual college has to decide the second group of 15 credits. The final approval for all this isn't until July 2013, but we are seeing committees meeting and working on proposals over the last couple of months. Basically, just to give you an idea of where some of them are at, the Communications Committee, for example, got together and they're proposing at this point 1 course, English Comp. The Social Science Committee got together and they haven't even decided on any. Okay, they have a list of so many courses, it's difficult for them to narrow down to 5. Natural science came up with 6. We're not sure if they're going to allow that because the bill says only 5. And then humanities chose 5, math 4. So you can see they're working on it, and basically by January, we hope to have a pretty good idea of what the state is going to ask us to do for the first 15 credit hours. The second part of this is basically up here where SPC goes at it, and we choose the second 15 credits. And basically our goal is to be, first of all, collaborative between administration and faculty, and then highly inclusive. So all faculty and administrators and stakeholders have a say in this. So we set up with Dr. Law's approval, and this we did actually over the summer at Faculty Senate with a proposal, basically a 3-step way of going about this. First of all, in January we'll have a collaborative lab right in here, and we'll invite anybody who'd like to come and talk about this issue to get us started. Secondly, there'll be a college-wide survey so everyone can give their input, and that one will be in January or February. And third, we'll have a series of committee meetings with about 40+ committee members of administrators and faculty who will work out our final proposal to the president and to the board for our 5 courses for each discipline. So basically that's how we're setting it up. I feel confident because we're working well with the administration on this. Just a side note, I was at a state conference a couple of months ago in October, and I was doing a presentation on this topic, and there were about, I would say 12 different colleges from the state represented in the room, and I asked them, how many of you have a plan to come up with your 15? And nobody did. Okay, so I think we're ahead of the game, we have a good plan, and we're moving in the right direction. The second topic, really quickly, again, down from the state, is the State Board of Education proposed changes to 6A.
You have that language in that little packet too, okay? The
Yes.
proposed new state board rule.
And there's a series of proposals, and you'll see the wording crossed out and what's proposed, and this is still being worked out, but we anticipate quite soon, perhaps before the legislative session starts, that all of these rules will go into, or at least be resolved. Some of the highlights here, one of the big ones, of course, is that the rule would change continuing contract from 3 to 5 years. It's been at 5 years for decades, and now they're proposing to move it to, I'm sorry, it's been 3 for decades, proposing to move it to 5. The faculty performance criteria, both before you get a continuing contract and post-award performance criteria, the wording they use is that each board should determine. So this will come back to you finally to figure out what that criteria will be. There's also issues with the role of college president. The current proposed wording removes the president's power to recommend termination of a continuing contract. Okay, so that would be interesting if it went through. And then student success incomes, again, all of the material we've been hearing about evaluating faculty, especially as they go into the workforce. So in conclusion, the individual colleges have to respond to these rule changes, and I think the faculty is in agreement with Dr. Law that we want these changes to be rigorous enough that those faculty not deserving of a continuing contract do not receive such a contract, while ensuring a fair process that recognizes deserving faculty with a continuing contract. So I'd be glad for your input or any questions you might have.
I'm glad you're ahead of the curve.
I think we are.
That was nice to hear, I bet, from the other colleges.
It was a
Yeah.
nice surprise.
That's great.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This rule will go to the state board most likely in January, and anticipate a vote in February, okay? Careful work has been handled with the executive branch as well at the governor's office, so we'll keep you informed, but it is what it is. For the state level issues, where's my clicker? Funding is, of course, always the big issue. I looked this morning, and there's $51 million in general program support. This college gets, if memory serves, about 3%, maybe 4% of the pot if you're just doing the dollars to dollars. So there's some hope for some additional enrollment support. We mentioned dual enrollment. That's going to be its own funding category. Everybody wants that to work, but For us, that'd be great. We're growth, and if they pay us anything where they haven't paid us before, we're ahead of the game. So I think that would work. We've been really good. I caution us, we're feeling the pressures of growth. If you look at those other colleges, though, that have grown 60%, they're off the rails already about, there has to be some additional recognition of people who've grown at these extraordinary rates over the last 4 or 5 years. So the president's working with some of the legislative staff probably will be part of the funding formula, will recognize people's growth, but the high-end growth guys are going to get more of the money as it comes down the track. Let me get through it and then I'll tell you what the next steps are. We've talked about performance funding. I haven't seen any of the language on performance funding everywhere except what you see in the proposed rule change. I've been fortunate enough to have some quiet conversations in the governor's office with him about what he expects, and it's starting to solidify around those kinds of things. The $10,000 degrees and the tuition policy, I'd like to bring you our plan for the $10,000 degree in January. We're not quite ready to roll that out. We've committed to it. We're trying to understand how all of the 10 colleges who agreed to it are going to do it. What are the common areas? What are the areas that are unique? How we want to handle the parts of it here. With each passing day, I'm increasingly comfortable we're going to come up with a really good plan. The ideas that we're working on as to how we would do this will make it very beneficial to students. It'll change a lot of behaviors. We'll get it all done. Developmental education. We hear that some key legislators are putting a great deal of downward pressure on developmental education, particularly in the Senate side, with some people who will be in leadership for a while. I expect that we will see the first forays into some limitations of developmental, how often you get to do it or what that might be. Distance learning, if you recall last year, there was a great deal of dialogue. We were at the center of it. Jim was part and parcel of trying to figure out, is there some consolidation at the state level? How do we get a more cohesive view of all this? We got the bill passing got vetoed by the governor, in fact, so we were in the right place at the right time last year. It's taken on some new and some different flavors, and something will come at that, and it will be a higher level consolidation. I'd like us to stay in the middle of it, but I don't know what's going to happen. Last year, some of us got in front and we were able to control some of that dialogue. It's a little away from us now. And then lastly, I will simply indicate some of my colleagues have, I don't think they perform their job in a way that you would be comfortable me performing mine, and several presidents have lost their jobs, I think, for the way they comported themselves. I think the legislature is, we expect the Inspector General's report in pretty short order. I'm not feeling any particular stress about it. I think we're comporting our business open and above board and straightforwardly, but the legislature is not happy that at times the presidents look like they are unsupervised adolescents, and they'll make sure that's not the case in Florida's public policy. So something will come from that. Let me simply say Ed Woodruff has done his usual great work. I will spend all of next Tuesday in Tallahassee meeting with all of the key leadership, staff leadership in trying to get a sense of where these issues are now that they've had their first round of committee meetings. We have meetings with the governor's policy people, and I think I would be able to give you some better insight into all of these issues after I've had a chance to do some one-on-ones with the staff as it's coming over the horizon. So we continue to, again, with Ed's work. And then let me just indicate, we've reached out to the newly elected legislators. We've already worked carefully with the ones that are moving up the chain in their leadership roles. I think our relationships with the Pinellas County delegation continue to be quite tidy and pretty forward and straight and mutually supportive and proactive. So I think from the state level, we're not seeing these big earth-shaking. I guess distance ed would be a big earth-shaking thing, but other than that, a lot of it is the first do no harm would be a good guidance, and I'm not sure of that. So that's the level of I just don't know the details behind a lot of these issues right now. Mr. Chairman, I think that's it. Thank you for allowing everybody to get their input. We've got a couple of minutes, and we've got as much time as you'd like to invest. Give us some guidance. We're going to use this as the kickoff to the budget development process, and
Just to follow up on my little, I would like to spend a little bit of time on the business side. What are we doing for marketing? What are we doing for fund development? Love to see less students take financial aid and have scholarship, if we can do that. I know that's a private, not as much of a public philosophy, but I would, seeing that international, there are ways to, I think, grow our income and just not react to what we have. So I would like to see us spend a little bit of time in the future at a board meeting, or you're wondering, the people that are doing it behind the scenes, that maybe I just not knowing what our plan is for those things. I'd love to hear from them and get some of their needs as we develop the budget. Is there more dollars that need to be marketing so we can increase enrollment, or at least keep on our share of what we have, because the demographics are flat. I'm acutely aware of that. Fund development, do we have enough sources there that we can have people for estate planning and all the things we need to get the alternate revenue sources, and using our facilities? Are we maximizing the facilities we have in rentals and leases and things of that nature? I'd like to see us kind of dabble in that as we go through the budgeting process, so we can maximize.
Let me bring back, we do have, I think we'll bring everything that looks like a revenue source or a marketing source, and we've got some good activity there. Right. We probably should have included it today. I was nervous about what we could get in 3 hours. Let's make that its own issue, because we have some things to share. There are some challenges we face, right, and your guidance has been well received. We're on top of it, so thank you for that.
Mr. Brett? Nothing?
I've talked too much this morning. I'm going to give you guys some chance.
Dr. Law, this is, first of all, let me thank everybody that was a presenter and the people that helped them behind the scenes put all the information together. This was a great workshop. The only additional thing that I would add, Dr. Law, is going forward, I'd really like to have the board evaluated, like a 360 evaluation. Okay. We want to know, I would like to know whether we're meeting the needs of the college when we make decisions. And that reflects on both of us as president and the board, but we don't know, we don't know the effect. Sometimes the best ideas come from the front line, and I don't know if we hear from them enough to know whether we're really doing what we need to do sometimes. So we'd like to I would like to look at, maybe if there's a way we could come back and look at evaluating the board on how effective we are as a board for meeting the needs of the students and the staff of the college.
Thank you.
That's one of the things that I really would like to see, if we could do that, because some of the feedback may be very good. We only touch on certain things that are a priority that we know about on a regular basis. And then finally, if you would indulge me for 1 second, I have to tell you, there was a saying that my Uncle Doug Jamerson used to tell me all the time. He said, "Boy, you're a turtle on a fence post." And I know I'll get to what that means in a minute.
Please do.
But my Uncle Doug was a really big part of my life. He was, if I had to say, there's probably 2 or 3 people that really influenced me. And he was a pretty influential guy in Florida. The reason I'm saying that is his friend, Dennis Jones, is leaving the legislature. And I would tell you, I wouldn't be standing here today if it wasn't for Dennis Jones and Jim King and some of my uncle's best friends. I remember when I started out as an agency lobbyist, I didn't know what the hell I got myself into. I was running around the Capitol, and I remember 2 people, Senator Jones and Senator King, did the same thing. I thought I was in trouble. They called me to their offices. Senator Jones, his office is, everybody loves him, so everybody's sitting out in the lobby area of his office, and he says, "Come on in," and he shuts the door, and I'm nervous. I'm thinking, "Oh my God, what have I done already? I've only been here a week, and I messed it up." And he calls me in and he says, "Whatever you need from me, you let me know." and I will help you as much as I can. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. This guy was a change agent in the state of Florida. He didn't just go to the legislature to sit there and collect a check. He went there to help people. And when I say I'm a turtle on a fence post, if you ever see a turtle on a fence post, you know he didn't get there by himself. And this is one of the people. That's right. It's true. This is one of the people that helped me get up on that post. And Senator, job well done. We're going to miss you. I'm definitely going to miss you in the legislature. And thank you for everything you've done for not only this community, this college, but the state of Florida. With that, I don't have anything else.
I'll close with an interesting anecdote. I just had a good occasion to go out to Los Angeles to help celebrate the 94th birthday of one of our grads. Wendell Ware was a very, very prominent grad from 1939. He went on to be hugely successful, lives in Sherman Oaks, California, knows a lot of very nice people, okay? But when we were out there, as luck would have it, they were looking through some of his library stuff, and they found his 1939 St. Petersburg College diploma just last week, okay?
Jeez.
And Wendell was delighted. We'll have pictures of, we just didn't get them sent to us yet, but Wendell has made gifts to the college in times past, wrote a book at age 90 on a love story, and we were celebrating the celebration of that. So he has a spot in his heart for saying he could tell tales about Pinellas County in the 30s. He's an aviator, so he was part of some of the initial work that was done down at the airport downtown. Used to sneak in and wash planes and learn to fly on the QT. So very good times. Your time today is of enormous value to us. Thank you for your service. Devron, Mr. Chairman tells me there is hope on the horizon for aid, that we will not always be a gang of 3. We will be a gang of 5 at some point in the very near. Coming soon. So,
that's what I was told.
So we believe that's it. And I had a heart-to-heart with many of the staff. The work we're doing is really good. You asked me as a board to help get us refocused on key mission areas. That was the guidance I got coming in the front door, and with your continuous interest and support, I think you would see we're pretty focused on our key mission issues. We're not running off in 50 different directions. In fact, I think the directions are starting to converge into a much higher level of throughput on behalf of our students in our community. So I thank you very much. Lots still to do, some challenges financially, but I think we're good to go. So we do have a luncheon for Dennis this afternoon, and now we don't have to even say anything nice about Dennis. You've already taken care of that for us.
I just want to also commend Senator Jones and thank you for the service to this college, specifically, and to our state generally. Thank you very, very much. Appreciate that. And I want to thank everybody here in the room, as always, for your dedication to your, I like to call it your vocation, because that's what it is. And y'all make us look really good. I appreciate your patience with people like myself who are trying to make my way through this journey as well. So thank you for everything you do. I hope you all have a great holiday season with your families, and enjoy. Thank you.
Thanks.
We're done.
Thank you.